Ladies and gentlemen, let me speak to you from experience, not as a lecturer from a podium, but as a man who stood at the edge of defeat more times than I can count and found a way forward every single time. What I'm about to tell you doesn't come from theory, nor is it the sweet syrup of wishful thinking. It comes from sweat, from setbacks, and from the stories of those who turned nothing into empires with one thing: desire. Not casual interest. Not vague wishes. I'm talking about a pulsating, burning desire. Let me tell you right now, if you want to achieve anything, wealth, purpose, freedom, fulfillment, you must begin with this internal fire. It is the foundation of every success story, the first spark that lights the engine of progress. I've studied men of industry, science, politics, invention, and commerce. And what did they all have in common? Not money, not education, not even luck. They had a deep, white-hot desire that refused to die. This first step, the desire, is where most people trip. You see, many folks think they want something. They say they want a better life, more money, success. But when life kicks them in the teeth, when the rain starts falling and the roof caves in, they give up. Why? Because they didn't really want it. They flirted with the idea. They dated success but never married it. Real desire doesn't fade when you're broke. It roars louder. You've got to make up your mind. And once you do, burn every bridge behind you. No plan B. No retreat. When you truly want something, you must want it as badly as a drowning man wants air. That kind of hunger changes your behavior. It forces your thoughts to line up with your goal. It tells your mind, find a way or die trying. You see, this isn't just positive thinking. This is focused intensity. Desire alone won't bring riches, but it's the fuel that powers every other principle I'll talk about. Without it, the engine doesn't even turn on. Desire must be specific. Don't say, I want more money. Say, I want to earn $100,000 by December 31st of this year. Then go further. I will give this value in exchange. I will work this plan. I will review my progress every day. This is no time for vague fantasies. You're not wishing. You're declaring war on limitation. And here's the truth that'll slap some sense into anyone willing to listen. The universe does not reward the passive. Success is not a gift. It is earned. And the currency is your unwavering determination. Every man and woman who ever reached the top did so because they refused to accept less. They kept going when others sat down. They adjusted when others gave up. They stayed awake while others slept. Desire turns ordinary people into giants. You don't need to be born into wealth or genius. You need the kind of focus that says, this is mine. I will have it. Come hell or high water. So let me ask you, what do you want? Really want? What's the thing that keeps you up at night and rushes into your mind every morning? Can you name it? Can you describe it in exact detail? If not, stop everything and do that first. The world bends to those who know what they want. In the coming chapters, I'll show you how desire connects to faith, autosuggestion, planning, and persistence. But remember, all of those are useless if you don't have this fire. And if you've ever had that fire before and lost it, good news, it's still there, buried beneath the ashes of fear and doubt. We're going to dig it out. Together. Let this be the beginning of your transformation. Not next month. Not next week. Right now. Now take that desire and write it down. Stamp it on your brain. Look at it every morning and every night. Speak it aloud with conviction. And then get to work, because your life's about to change. Let me make something perfectly clear, right out of the gate. You do not need money to make money. What you need is a decision. A real one. A decision backed by action, by purpose, by persistence. Because I've seen more broke men become millionaires than I've seen rich men stay wealthy. And the difference isn't in the bank, it's in the brain. Most people wait. They wait for the economy to change. They wait for a better opportunity. They wait for someone to give them permission. Let me tell you something as plainly as I can. Success doesn't wait for you. And if you're standing still, you're already behind. The world doesn't hand out invitations. You either show up and claim your future, or you sit back and clap for someone else who did. In this life, waiting costs more than failure. Failure at least teaches you something. But waiting? That just drains the clock until all your chances are dust. You see, the moment you decide, really decide, that you are going to achieve a thing, that is the moment your brain begins to operate differently. Your thoughts shift. Your awareness sharpens. You start noticing doors that were always there, but you were too blind to see. The man who says, I'll try, is a tourist. The man who says, I will, is a conqueror. Now don't misunderstand me. I'm not talking about wishful thinking. I'm not talking about fake it till you make it. I'm talking about making a committed, conscious decision that you will persist until. No expiration date. No exit clause. Just until. Until it works. Until you crack the code. Until the doors open. Until. This is what separates the dreamers from the doers. You know what people love to talk about? Their potential. You know what I've never seen on a paycheck? Potential. The only thing that pays is production. And production begins when you get out of your own way and stop dancing with doubt. Now, let me remind you of something else. The idea that you need more resources, money, connections, perfect timing. That's the lie the comfort zone tells you to keep you exactly where you are. There's a reason why so many of the greatest successes started broke. Because when your back's against the wall, all that's left is forward. And don't you dare buy into the myth of luck. Luck is what the lazy call other people's discipline. When someone succeeds, it's not an accident. It's a result. And behind that result is a decision, fueled by desire, enforced by action, and protected by persistence. Let me give you a practical step. Take that desire you identified in part 1, and now write the decision that supports it. Say it aloud. I have decided that I will achieve, insert your goal, and I will not stop until I do. Put it on your wall. Put it on your mirror. Put it on your phone. Tattoo it on your soul. Because once you decide, you change the game. The world is moved not by those who wait, but by those who choose. The man who decides once and for all that he will not live in mediocrity becomes a force of nature. He bends circumstance to his will, not the other way around. So, if you're looking for a sign, this is it. This moment. Right now. Decide. Because that's how empires begin. That's how legacies are born. That's how you rise. When Hernán Cortés landed on the shores of Mexico, he gave one simple order to his men: burn the boats. No retreat. No surrender. No going back. And you know what? That small act lit a fire in their minds. Because when your only option is forward, something primal kicks in, something called commitment. Most people live their lives with escape hatches built into every dream they claim to chase. They say they want to succeed, but they keep their boats parked just offshore, just in case it gets hard. And it will get hard. But if you want to win, you've got to burn your backup plans and make success the only outcome. You can't plant one foot in the future and keep the other in your excuses. Now, don't confuse burning the boats with being reckless. I'm not telling you to quit your job today or leap blindly. I'm telling you to quit doubting yourself. Quit negotiating with your own potential. Quit giving yourself permission to fail before you've even started. There's a moment in every person's life when they decide to bet on themselves. That's the moment I'm talking about. When you stop asking if and start declaring when. The reason most people fail isn't because they aim too high. It's because they aim too low and hit. They settle. They tell themselves, this is good enough. But good enough is the enemy of greatness. And you were not put on this earth to be enough. You were built to become more. Let me ask you something straight. What are you still holding on to just in case? That savings account for when your dream fails? That job you hate but might need? That fear of embarrassment if you go all in and don't make it? Let it go. There's no dignity in dying with your dreams still inside you. But there is power in living like failure isn't an option. And here's the truth. When you stop giving yourself options, your mind starts creating solutions. That's when real growth begins. Because that voice inside you, the one whispering that you were made for more, it doesn't lie. But fear will tell you anything to keep you safe. Fear is clever. It disguises itself as caution, as logic, as practicality. But if you let it, fear becomes the captain of your ship. And let me tell you, fear is a damn coward. It only leads to shipwrecks. What you need is boldness. Not recklessness, boldness. The kind of boldness that says, I will build this life, no matter what it takes. And I'll build it not because it's easy, but because it's mine. You must decide that your dreams are non-negotiable, that your mission is sacred, that your potential is not up for debate. Burn the boats, burn the excuses, burn the backup plans, and build the life you were born to live. The moment you eliminate retreat from your vocabulary, you ignite a level of courage inside yourself that most people never tap into. Courage doesn't show up when the path is easy. It roars to life when there is no path, and you start walking anyway. That is when you become unstoppable. Let's clear up the biggest lie you've been sold your entire life. That success belongs to the lucky. That's nonsense. Success does not belong to the lucky. It belongs to the hungry. It belongs to those who desire it so fiercely, so obsessively, that the universe has no choice but to respond. Everything begins with desire. Not a wish, not a hope, not some flimsy idea scribbled on a napkin. I'm talking about a white-hot, consuming desire, the kind that keeps you up at night and wakes you up in the morning. A fire in the belly that never goes out. You see, riches do not respond to maybe. They respond to certainty. When a man or woman decides, not vaguely, not half-heartedly, but truly decides that they will succeed, every part of the world starts bending toward that outcome. Opportunities that were invisible suddenly appear. Doors that were closed start to open. People begin showing up with the answers, the help, the money, the ideas. All because you finally made the decision to burn the damn bridge behind you and move forward. That's what happened to Edwin C. Barnes. He didn't have money. He didn't have connections. But he had desire. He wanted to go into business with Thomas Edison, not work for Edison, mind you, but be his business partner. People laughed. They said he was crazy. But he didn't care. He got on a freight train with no plan, no cash, just a burning desire. And that desire became the seed of his success. You need that level of belief. Not belief in the world. Not belief in circumstances. Belief in yourself. Here's the truth. You'll never achieve anything great if your desire is optional. You have to want it more than you want comfort, more than you want approval, more than you want to avoid failure. Now, this isn't about hype. This isn't a pep rally. I'm telling you the unshakable law of success, that every empire, every invention, every fortune ever created began the same way, with a mind consumed by a burning obsession. And guess what? You already know what that thing is for you. Deep down you do. It's that quiet dream you've buried under logic. That crazy idea that never left you. The one thing you'd do if you knew you couldn't fail. That's your blueprint. That's your target. But it won't come to life on its own. You have to give it breath. You have to feed it with vision, with focus, and with daily action. So let me ask you something. What would your life look like if you chased your dream the way a drowning man fights for air? Because that's the level it takes. Not polite interest. Not casual effort. Not, I'll give it a shot. No, it takes commitment. Ruthless commitment. A willingness to walk through fire, to be misunderstood, to fall down and rise again and again until the world gets the message. You will not be denied. That's what this chapter, this entire philosophy, is about. It's about unlocking a force within you that doesn't beg for success, but demands it. If you want to be rich in money, rich in purpose, rich in legacy, you must start by being rich in desire. Because the fire inside you is the only thing strong enough to melt the chains that have held you back your entire life. Let me tell you something that separates those who win from those who watch. Winners decide. They make a decision, and then they burn the bridge behind them. No backup plan. No safety net. No just in case. They commit. Most people live their whole lives with one foot on the gas and the other on the brake, terrified to move, terrified to fail, and even more terrified to succeed. That inner voice says, what if this doesn't work? So they wait, and they wait, and life passes them by like a train they never boarded. But not you. Not if you want to grow rich, in wealth, in power, in meaning. Because you don't get to the summit by accident. You climb because you decide to climb, and you refuse to turn back. You see, desire is the engine, but decision is the steering wheel. You can be burning with ambition, but if you don't aim that fire, it'll consume you instead of elevate you. Here's what I've learned after years of studying the most successful men of my time. Carnegie, Ford, Edison, Rockefeller. Every one of them had the ability to make a firm, unwavering decision and stick with it, even in the face of ridicule, resistance, and uncertainty. They didn't chase every shiny object. They didn't panic when the market shook. They chose a course, and they walked it. Through mud, through storms, through failure, through fear. Because they knew this, the universe moves out of the way for the man who knows where he's going. Too many people make the mistake of waiting until conditions are perfect. They want guarantees. They want green lights all the way. But listen, perfect timing is a myth. There will always be something missing, something uncertain, something scary. If you wait for perfect, you'll wait forever. So I say this, decide anyway. Decide when you're broke. Decide when you're scared. Decide when you're alone. Because once you do, once you truly commit, everything else begins to rearrange itself in your favor. People call it luck. I call it alignment. When your decision aligns with your desire, your mind begins to operate on a higher frequency. You see solutions faster. You attract resources. You build momentum. But this only happens when you stop being interested and start being committed. There's no power in maybe. There's no magic in hesitation. Fortune favors the bold, and boldness begins with a decision that you are all in, no matter what. So let me ask you, what is your decision? Not your wish. Not your plan B. Not your someday. What is your decision? And when will you stop waiting and start living like someone who has already made it? Because until you decide, nothing moves. But the moment you do, the moment you declare to the world and to yourself, this is who I am, this is what I'm doing, and I will not stop until I get it, you become unstoppable. That's the real power behind growing rich. It's not about money. It's about certainty, direction, faith. And it all begins when you decide to begin. Let's talk about something invisible, but more powerful than money, skill, or even intelligence. Faith. I'm not speaking of blind religious belief. I'm speaking of a state of mind, an unshakable conviction that what you desire is already yours in spirit, and soon will be yours in form. Faith is belief on fire. It's what transforms hope into certainty. Without faith, desire is just a wish. But with it? With faith, desire becomes a force so powerful, it bends reality. Now, let me be clear. Faith isn't magic. It's not sitting cross-legged and hoping the universe throws a gold bar in your lap. Faith is the fuel that drives action. It is the engine that powers persistence, especially when results haven't shown up yet. It is believing before you see, and continuing to move as if the prize is already in your hands. The greatest minds I ever met, the ones who built empires out of nothing, every single one had this trait in common. Not talent, not money, not connections. Faith. You don't have to see the whole staircase, but you damn well better take the first step, because that step, my friend, that leap, is the proof of faith. Now you might ask, how do I develop faith? What if I'm full of doubt? Good question. And the answer is simple, repetition. Just like you train your body at the gym, you train your mind by feeding it belief every single day. You write down your goal. You read it aloud. You visualize it. You speak as if it's already real. You surround yourself with images, words, and people who reinforce that belief. And guess what? The mind doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's vividly imagined. That's not just philosophy, it's neuroscience. When you rehearse your success mentally, your brain begins to wire itself for that reality. In time, doubt fades. Fear loses its grip, and faith becomes your default setting. This is why I urge you, write your definite purpose. Read it aloud, morning and night. Feel it. Own it. Let it live in your bones. Because repetition of belief creates faith, and faith is the starting point of all achievement. Look back at every major invention, every great breakthrough, every towering success. Behind it all, you'll find a man or woman who believed fiercely, stubbornly, when nobody else did. Sometimes even when they didn't fully understand how it would work. But they trusted the vision. They trusted the feeling. They trusted the process. Faith doesn't eliminate fear. It just gives you something stronger to hold on to. When obstacles show up, and they will, faith says, I've already decided, and I'm not turning back. When the bank account runs dry, faith says, this is temporary, my fortune is already on the way. When people laugh or scoff or walk away, faith whispers, they'll understand later. I've seen men rise from rags to riches not because of genius, but because of belief. Raw, stubborn, relentless belief. That's what separates the dreamers from the doers. Faith is the bridge between your idea and your reality. So I ask you, what do you believe about yourself? Because your answer to that question will shape the rest of your life. And if you don't like the answer, good. Change it. Start today. Write a new story. Read it until it becomes real. Read it until it becomes you. Because faith is not a gift given to a few. It is a muscle waiting to be built. You don't need permission. You don't need proof. You need only to decide, to believe, and to act like it's already done. That's the first step to riches. Let's peel back the curtain and look at the most underrated, misunderstood, and powerful tool in your mental arsenal, autosuggestion. Now, don't let the word trip you up. It sounds complex, but it's simple. Autosuggestion is just self-talk on purpose. It's the mechanism by which your conscious thoughts reach the subconscious mind and start to take root, like seeds planted in fertile ground. Why is this important? Because the subconscious mind is the gatekeeper of your habits, your instincts, your self-image, and ultimately, your results. It doesn't question. It doesn't argue. It doesn't analyze. It simply accepts whatever message you feed it, especially if you feed it often and with emotion. Most people don't understand this. They let negative ideas, doubt, fear, jealousy, failure, flow into their subconscious every day without resistance. They rehearse defeat in their minds like it's a Broadway show. They speak words like, "I'm not good enough. I never catch a break. That's just my luck." And guess what? The subconscious accepts those commands and delivers accordingly. But here's the good news. You can flip the script. You can feed it new instructions. You can install beliefs that serve you, not sabotage you. You can condition it for success on your terms. How? Through autosuggestion, repetition, emotion, consistency. You take your definite major purpose, the thing you burn for, and you write it down in clear, specific terms. Then you speak it aloud every single day, twice a day, morning and night. And not like you're reading from a cereal box, but like your life depends on it. You speak with passion, with energy, with faith. Because the subconscious doesn't respond to cold logic, it responds to emotion. When you say something like you mean it, like it's already real, like it's your identity, then it sticks. Then it goes deep. And once it sinks in, the real magic happens. Your mind starts to work for you. Ideas come. Opportunities appear. Your behavior shifts without force. You start saying no to what doesn't serve you, and yes to what brings you closer. You attract people, resources, and moments that align with your vision, because you've aligned yourself first. Let me tell you something. Every person who's achieved greatness has practiced autosuggestion, whether they knew it or not. They kept saying what they wanted, kept seeing it in their mind, kept reinforcing the image until it became their truth. You must do the same. Here's your blueprint. Write your definite major purpose. Make it sharp, clear, and emotionally charged. Read it aloud twice daily, once in the morning to ignite your day, and once before bed to marinate your subconscious as you sleep. Visualize it as you read. See yourself living it. Feel the joy, the power, the freedom. Repeat. Again and again. No days off. Because repetition builds belief, and belief builds behavior. You might feel silly at first. That's okay. You're retraining your brain. You're rewiring your future. And if you don't take control of your subconscious, someone else will. Society will. Circumstances will. And they don't always have your best interests in mind. This is your mind. Take ownership. Take command. If you want to change your life, you must first change your thinking. And autosuggestion is the tool that turns a whisper of hope into a battle cry of belief. You are the author, the architect, the commander. What story will you tell? What future will you feed? What identity will you build? Say it, feel it, repeat it, and soon you'll become it. Now let's talk about the engine that breathes life into desire, the bridge that connects vision to manifestation, and that word is faith. You see, faith is not something reserved for churches or temples. It's not a passive belief or blind hope. No, the kind of faith I'm talking about is active. It's muscular. It's bold. It's the unwavering confidence in something you cannot yet see, and it's absolutely essential if you want to transform thought into result. You might be asking, but how do I get that kind of faith, Napoleon? Well, let me tell you. You create it. You manufacture it through repetition, through autosuggestion, through the steady feeding of positive belief into your subconscious mind. Faith isn't a lightning strike. It's a fire you build, spark by spark, log by log, thought by thought. Let me be blunt. Without faith, your desire is just a wish. It has no legs, no traction. It will blow away the moment life gets tough. But with faith, that desire becomes unbreakable. You'll pursue your purpose with such conviction that the world will start to believe in it, too. And here's the secret most people miss. Faith is contagious. When you truly believe in your purpose, when you walk into a room with that fire in your eyes and that steel in your spine, people feel it. They may not even know why, but they'll want to help. Doors will open. Allies will appear. Why? Because the universe responds to certainty. Now listen closely. Faith is a state of mind, and like all states of mind, it can be cultivated. You don't have to be born with it. You don't have to wait for it. You create it through affirmation, visualization, and action. That's why I keep hammering on repetition. That's why you must speak your purpose daily. That's why you must see yourself already living the life you're building. You're not pretending. You're rehearsing your future. You're making the invisible visible first in your mind, then in your world. And when you do that long enough, something incredible happens. Doubt loses its grip. The voice in your head that once said, "Who are you to dream that big?" gets drowned out by a new voice. Your voice saying, "Who am I not to?" Let me tell you something you need to tattoo on your spirit. Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. Not just conceive, not just believe, both. That's the formula. You must imagine it. You must believe it's possible for you. And once those two come together, watch out. That's when the impossible starts cracking. Now, don't expect the world to applaud you right away. The minute you decide to think big, small minds will try to shrink you. They'll call you crazy. They'll question your choices. Let them. That's not your business. Your business is to believe. Your business is to show up every day with purpose and passion and keep moving forward, even when no one claps, even when no one sees it yet. Because faith sees what others can't. And you know what's even more powerful than having faith? Becoming the kind of person who inspires it in others. That's who you're becoming. So let me ask you, are you willing to believe in yourself before the world does? Are you willing to say yes to your dream while it still looks like a question mark? Are you ready to walk like it's already done, even when your feet are still in the mud? If so, you're unstoppable. Because once you've got desire fueled by faith, not fear, you've got momentum. You've got magic. And that, my friend, is when mountains move. Let's make something very clear right now. Successful people make decisions quickly, and they change them slowly, if ever. That's not just a personality trait, it's a survival mechanism. It's how dreams stay alive in a world built to smother them. Indecision is a silent killer. It doesn't show up with flashing lights. No, it sneaks in. It disguises itself as logic, or prudence, or waiting for the right time. But let me tell you, there is no right time. There is only now. And the longer you wait to decide, the louder fear becomes. You know what indecision really is? Permission. It's permission for doubt to take the wheel. It's an open invitation for excuses to pile up. And before you know it, the fire inside you becomes a flicker, then a spark, then ashes. Don't let that happen. You want to change your life? Start by changing how you decide. Make decisions like your life depends on them, because it does. Every day you hesitate is a day you reinforce the life you're trying to escape. Now listen, this doesn't mean be reckless. It means be resolute. Trust that when your desire is clear and your faith is strong, your decision doesn't need permission. You don't have to consult the committee of the doubtful. You are the committee. You decide. You'll find that once a decision is made, life gets simpler. Not always easier, but clearer. That fog you've been walking through? That's the mist of maybe. And the moment you say yes or no with conviction, the sun comes out. But here's the thing most people miss. Making a decision is only half the battle. The other half is owning it. Even when it gets hard. Even when people doubt you. Even when progress feels microscopic. Because every time you stick with it, you become the kind of person who finishes what they start. You become trustworthy to others, sure. But more importantly to yourself. Let's talk about that for a second, self-trust. That's the foundation. If you say, I'll wake up early, but you don't, you chip away at it. If you say, I'll start that business, but stall for another 6 months, another crack. Until one day, your word means nothing to you. And that is dangerous. But the good news? You can rebuild it. One decision at a time. One kept promise at a time. And here's a big one. Decide to stop making excuses. Seriously. Excuses are like crutches for people who want to limp through life. You don't need them. You need accountability. You need ownership. You need to say, this is mine to fix, mine to build, mine to win. People will give you 1,000 reasons why your dream won't work. Life will hand you roadblocks wrapped in good intentions. But guess what? The world doesn't need another excuse. It needs you, full power, no brakes, all heart. And don't fall for the trap of waiting until everything is perfect. Perfection is the enemy of momentum. Start where you are. Start with what you've got. Start now. Every empire started with one brick. Every marathon with one step. Every success with one decision. I'm not living like this anymore. Make that decision. Say it out loud. Say it to your mirror, to your future, to every doubt you've ever known. Say it like you mean it. And then act. Because the difference between those who wish and those who win? The winners decided. So now you've heard the truth. You've heard what separates the dreamers from the doers, the talkers from the achievers, the somedays from the right nows. And I'll tell you this, if you've made it this far, if you're still with me, it's because something inside you refuses to be ordinary. You've got that spark, that flicker of hunger. And I'm here to fan that flame. Let's get brutally honest, shall we? Most people will never get what they want in life. Not because they're not smart. Not because they're not talented. But because they never develop the one thing that matters more than anything else, a burning desire backed by unwavering belief. They'll tiptoe through life. Play it safe. Take advice from people who've never dared to want more. And then they'll look back with regret, asking themselves, what if I just gone for it? Not you. You're not built for regret. You're built for rise. This whole journey, every word in this philosophy, begins with desire. Not a wish, not a wouldn't it be nice. I'm talking about an all-consuming, unstoppable, unapologetic obsession to achieve what matters to you. And once that desire grabs you by the soul, you have one job: commit. No plan B. No parachute. Burn the bridge. Burn the excuses. Burn the story of who you were. Because the second you commit, life starts to respond. Opportunities appear. People show up. Resources reveal themselves. It's as if the universe leans in and whispers, finally, you're ready. But you've got to keep showing up. There will be moments where nothing seems to work. You'll question your path, your timing, your worth. Keep going. Because what's waiting on the other side is not just success, it's transformation. You won't just have more. You'll be more. That's what this is really about. This philosophy? It's not just about getting rich, though it can do that. It's about becoming the kind of person who can create wealth, who can generate opportunities, who can attract greatness because they embody it. Think about it. A person with a weak desire can't manifest anything lasting. But someone with white-hot intensity? They bend the world. They don't knock on doors. They build them. And when they walk through, they hold it open for others. That's leadership. That's legacy. So as we close this first chapter, this first step, I leave you with this. If you want to live a life of purpose, wealth, impact, and meaning, stop asking if. Start asking how. And then, never stop moving until the world knows your name. Remember, the starting point of all achievement is desire. Fan it. Feed it. Follow it. The riches, the rewards, the respect, they come after. But first comes the fire. And now, it's your turn to burn. Ladies and gentlemen, let me begin with a truth so simple, yet so often ignored. Faith is the foundation of all achievement. I am not speaking of blind faith, nor of passive hope. I speak of applied faith, the kind that moves mountains, breaks limits, and builds wealth, power, and peace from the inside out. Faith is not something you were born with. It is not granted by luck or circumstance. Faith is cultivated, constructed, forged in the heat of thought, and hammered into shape through repetition. Whatever you deeply believe, you become. Whatever idea you impress upon your subconscious mind with emotion, confidence, and persistence, your mind accepts as truth. And once accepted, it begins to act on it. Let that sink in. Your subconscious mind does not judge what you feed it. It accepts what is repeated with emotion and certainty, whether it is success or failure, confidence or fear, strength or weakness. That is why belief becomes destiny. If you fill your mind daily with thoughts of strength, wealth, clarity, and possibility, your subconscious will begin crafting a life to match those thoughts. If instead you dwell on doubt, worry, poverty, and failure, then your mind will obey that command just as faithfully. Faith is a state of mind, created by affirmation, by autosuggestion, and by repetition of thought. It is not built in a moment, but it is built daily, like a muscle, like a habit, like a bridge from where you are to where you intend to go. Now, you may ask, what if I don't yet believe I can achieve my goal? Then I say this to you, begin anyway. Speak your goal aloud. Declare it. Visualize it. See yourself already in possession of what you seek. Add feeling. Add gratitude. Add certainty, even if it feels strange at first. Because in time, the strange becomes familiar, and the unfamiliar becomes real. When you affirm your belief each day, you are not lying to yourself. You are instructing yourself. You are building a new identity. And that identity becomes the foundation for action, for courage, for results. Because belief, once planted deeply enough, removes hesitation. It silences doubt. It becomes your inner command center. When others retreat, you move forward. When fear rises, you remain focused. Because you no longer hope, you know. You don't have to believe in the goal all at once. You only have to believe that you can become the person who achieves it. This is the gift of faith. It makes impossible things feel inevitable. So today, I ask you not to merely wish. I ask you to train belief, to repeat the thoughts that serve you, to eliminate the language of fear, and to speak your future into the present until your mind, your habits, and your results begin to align. That is the beginning of true transformation. Now that we understand faith as a state of mind, a condition you create, not one you wait for, the question becomes, how do you create it? The answer, my friend, is both simple and profound. Through repetition of thought. You see, the subconscious mind responds to repetition mixed with emotion. That is how beliefs are built, brick by brick, thought by thought, day by day. You may not yet believe that you can build the life you desire, but if you speak it often enough, if you say it with enough feeling, if you repeat it until the words feel like truth rather than fantasy, your subconscious mind will begin to accept it. And once it accepts it, everything changes. Because your subconscious doesn't argue. It doesn't analyze. It doesn't ask for evidence. It responds to what is repeated with conviction, good or bad, right or wrong. This is both the danger and the miracle of the human mind. If you constantly tell yourself you're weak, unlucky, undeserving, your mind accepts that command and builds a reality to match. But if you deliberately feed it strength, clarity, abundance, spoken aloud, repeated daily, charged with emotion, your subconscious will go to work creating new beliefs, new behaviors, and new outcomes. This is the power of autosuggestion, the practice of planting thoughts in your own mind. Do not underestimate it. Every leader, every innovator, every wealthy individual I've studied has used this technique, whether they knew it or not. They filled their minds with visions of victory long before the world ever saw it. They created belief from within before the results ever appeared without. You can do the same. I urge you today, not tomorrow, to begin creating your own affirmation of faith. It must be personal. It must be specific. And it must be repeated with emotion. Let it sound like this. I am becoming the person capable of achieving my goal. I believe in my ability to learn, grow, and adapt. I know that success is mine because I refuse to quit. Say it morning and night. Say it with your eyes closed and your imagination active. See yourself already possessing the thing you seek. Feel the joy, the certainty, the confidence of having it now. This is not fantasy. This is training. Mental training. Emotional training. Faith training. Each time you speak your affirmation, you strengthen a neural path. You rewire old doubts. You reinforce a new identity. And that identity? It determines how you act, how you speak, what you expect, and what you receive. Because belief is the root of all behavior. You don't act boldly unless you first believe in your right to succeed. You don't persist through challenge unless you believe that victory is possible. You don't invest effort unless you believe the result is worth it. And where does that belief come from? Repetition. Spoken thought. Emotional certainty. This is how faith is built, not in temples or textbooks, but in the daily whispers you speak to yourself. You are your own sculptor. Your thoughts are your chisel. And faith is the form taking shape beneath your hands. So speak your future. Repeat it. Believe it into being. That is the essence of creation. Let me make one thing absolutely clear. Faith and fear cannot live in the same mind. They're emotional opposites. And where one exists in strength, the other cannot survive. Faith is the builder. Fear is the destroyer. One moves you forward. The other paralyzes. And it is you who decides which one stays. Now, I don't say this to shame fear. Fear is natural. Fear will visit. But what matters is what you do when it knocks. Do you invite it in? Feed it? Let it sleep in the guest room of your mind? Or do you meet it with the weapon of belief, the sword of clarity, and the shield of repetition? You see, the human mind is a fertile field, and what you plant, grows. Plant fear, and you harvest hesitation. Plant faith, and you grow momentum. But don't think you can plant both and get peace. That garden will choke itself out. You must choose which thoughts you cultivate, which emotions you fuel, which inner voice you amplify. And you do that by what you repeat daily. If you begin each day with thoughts like, I'm not ready, or what if I fail? Then fear becomes your guide. But if you begin with, I am capable, I am growing, this is mine, then faith takes the wheel. Let me tell you, the people who succeed are not the ones without fear. They are the ones whose faith is louder. They have built belief by feeding it. They have planted certainty by speaking it. They have watered confidence through thought, repetition, and motion. This is how you become unstoppable, not by being fearless, but by becoming faithful. Faith doesn't mean everything will go your way. It means you will keep going regardless. It doesn't mean the path will be easy. It means the result will be worth it. So ask yourself now, what thoughts do I repeat most often? Are they rooted in faith or in fear? That answer will shape your next week, next year, and possibly your next decade. And if the answer isn't what you'd like it to be, change it. Change the script. Change the voice. Change the inner monologue. Start small if you must. A few minutes each morning. A new phrase on your wall. A different tone when you speak to yourself. Because every change in life begins with a change in belief. And every change in belief begins with a change in language. Say it. Feel it. Own it. I am becoming the person I was meant to be. I do not fear failure. I learn from it. My future belongs to me because I am building it today. Let those be your thoughts. Let those be your prayers. Let those be your declarations of faith. Because where faith lives, fear cannot. Faith is not just a feeling. It is not something you whisper in silence and hope will do the rest. Faith is a command to act. You see, belief that is not backed by behavior is just fantasy in disguise. True faith expresses itself through action, confident, deliberate, forward-moving action. Let me be clear, you don't wait to act until you believe. You act in a way that builds belief. And what kind of action am I talking about? I mean speaking with conviction, walking with purpose, showing up to your day as if success were not a question of if, but when. If you want to be wealthy, act like someone who respects time, energy, and opportunity. If you want to be a leader, speak with clarity, listen deeply, and decide with courage. If you want to grow, then seek challenge, not comfort. Behave as if your goal were already in progress, not in doubt. Because when your actions and your affirmations align, your mind takes notice. It says, this is real. We're serious now. And your subconscious begins to work with you, not against you. But most people never reach this point. Why? Because they wait for the belief to feel perfect before they move. They wait for confidence to be complete before they speak. They wait for fear to vanish before they commit. That day never comes. You build faith through motion. You strengthen belief by becoming the person who does the thing, even when it's uncomfortable, especially when it's inconvenient. Faith is not born from ease. It is born from evidence. And evidence comes from action. So ask yourself now, not later, not someday. Ask, what would the best version of me do today? Then do it. Not because it feels easy, not because you're ready, but because it's who you are training to become. Every small step you take is proof to your mind that you are growing, that you are capable, that you are moving forward. And when you see yourself moving forward, belief takes root. One step leads to another. One action feeds one thought. And soon, momentum replaces hesitation. Let me remind you, your mind does not respond to words alone. It responds to alignment. When what you think, what you say, and what you do all point in the same direction. That is the kind of faith that moves mountains, not because the mountain gets smaller, but because you get stronger. Don't wait for outside proof. Create it inside. Faith is not passive. It is not soft. It is not optional. It is the driving force that transforms ideas into action, action into habits, and habits into results. It is the invisible hand that builds visible lives. So from this day forward, make a commitment to speak with faith, to walk with faith, to act as though your goal is not a dream, but a certainty you are stepping into. That is how transformation begins, not with the world believing in you, but with you believing in you and behaving like it. Let me now tell you something that too many people learn too late. Faith is not only personal, it is environmental. You do not build belief in a vacuum. You build it in a world that is constantly speaking back to you. And everything that speaks, people, media, habits, noise, either feeds your faith or your fear. Let me ask you, who do you spend your time with? What voices do you let near your ears? What words do you allow to echo in your mind? Because I assure you, those voices are not neutral. They are either lifting you or limiting you. They are either planting belief or pouring poison into your thoughts. If you want to protect your faith, you must protect your environment. Your mind is fertile ground, but it is not immune to weeds. You cannot afford to plant seeds of greatness while letting others stomp on the soil. Surround yourself with those who see possibilities, who speak in solutions, not in problems, who remind you of your power, not your past, who talk about growth, not gossip, because faith is contagious, and so is doubt. If you spend your time around people who expect mediocrity, you will start lowering your own standards just to fit in. If you constantly hear, "That's not realistic," or "Don't get your hopes up," your mind will begin to shrink to match their limitations. But when you place yourself in the presence of those who believe, something shifts. You begin to stretch. You begin to speak with more conviction. You begin to expect more from yourself, not out of pressure, but out of possibility. And that is the space where faith flourishes. You don't need to be surrounded by hundreds. Even one voice of encouragement can overpower a dozen voices of doubt if you listen to the right one. And yes, that voice might need to be your own at first. That's okay. If no one believes in you yet, be the first. Speak words of faith to yourself every day until they become your internal dialogue. You will find, in time, that the world mirrors your inner state. As you believe in your path, others will feel it. As you speak with clarity, others will listen differently. As you move with purpose, others will begin to follow, even if they can't explain why. That is the magnetic power of trained faith. It leads, it influences, it multiplies, but only when you defend it. So I say this to you. Be ruthless with your attention. Be careful with your conversations. Be intentional with your company. If you are building a mind of belief, do not let it be shaken by the noise of those who gave up on their own dreams. You are not here to fit in. You are here to rise up. Surround yourself with fire, and your faith will burn brighter. Surround yourself with ash, and you will choke. This is your life, your vision, your inner world. Protect it like something priceless, because it is. And remember, your faith may be the light that someone else needs. So build it strong. Let it shine. Let me share a truth that many overlook. Faith does not only change what you do, it changes who you are. It is not just a fuel for achievement. It is the architect of identity. Because here's what I've learned from years of studying success. You don't succeed by force. You succeed by alignment, when your thoughts, emotions, and identity all point toward the same destination. And that starts inside. You see, most people focus on doing. What should I do to succeed? What habits do I need? What strategy should I follow? But the deeper question is, who am I becoming? Because your actions follow your beliefs, and your beliefs are shaped by your identity. And here's the powerful part. Identity is not fixed. It is not a life sentence. It is fluid, flexible, moldable by thought, repetition, and, above all, faith. When you affirm your belief in yourself daily, when you visualize your goals with emotion, when you speak with certainty, you are not just influencing your behavior. You are rewriting the story of who you are. You go from, I hope I can do this, to, I'm the kind of person who does this. And once that switch flips, once you start identifying with strength, confidence, and capability, everything changes. Doubt loses its grip. Excuses feel out of place. Procrastination becomes uncomfortable because it no longer fits the new version of you. That's the real power of faith. It rewires your internal model. It installs a new belief system that says, this is who I am now. You stop chasing success like an outsider. You begin creating it like an insider because you believe you deserve it, and you're acting accordingly. And that, my friend, is where consistency is born. People don't struggle with action because they're lazy. They struggle because their actions conflict with their self-image. But when you upgrade that self-image through faith, the actions come naturally. You no longer force discipline, you embody it. You no longer try to be confident, you walk in it. You no longer hope to succeed, you expect to. And not because of arrogance, but because of alignment. Let me ask you directly. Who are you becoming today? What identity are you building with your thoughts, your words, your repetition? If you don't like the answer, change it. It doesn't take years. It takes decision, followed by daily reinforcement. Speak like the person you want to be. Move like the person you want to be. Think like the person you want to be. And in time, you won't be pretending. You'll be living it. That is the transformation faith offers, not as magic, not as myth, but as mental discipline applied with emotion and persistence. It's available to you right now. All it requires is a choice. To believe in the version of you that already exists, just waiting for permission to rise. Let me speak plainly now. You are not your past. You are not your mistakes, your failures, your upbringing, or your circumstances. Faith breaks chains. Faith rewrites stories. Faith says, no matter where I began, I decide where I go next. Too many people live like prisoners of yesterday. They wear the labels others gave them, not smart enough, not good enough, too late, too old. And worst of all, they believe them. But hear me, those labels only stick if you give them permission. Your past was real, yes, but your belief about it is what determines your future. If you continue to define yourself by who you used to be, you will keep repeating what you used to do. But when you activate faith, real faith, you release yourself from old definitions. You step into a new frame, a new image, a new identity. And you don't need the world's approval to do it. You don't need anyone's permission but your own. This is the beauty of faith. It gives you the power to choose again, to think a new thought, to tell a new story, to move with a new purpose. Every day becomes a doorway, not a sentence. Every thought becomes a brushstroke, not a cage. You may have failed before. So have I. So has every person who ever did something worth doing. But failure is not who you are. It is something that happened. The question is, what meaning will you give it? Faith allows you to see failure not as a wall, but as a mirror, a teacher, a stepping stone, a signpost saying, not here. Keep going. When you carry faith, you carry vision. And when vision becomes stronger than memory, your future takes the lead. Let me ask you something powerful. If you were to let go of all doubt tied to your past, if you were to release every label that no longer serves you, if you were to believe deeply that you are allowed to become more, who would you be? What would you say yes to? What would you stop apologizing for? What would you finally begin? You see, faith is not about denying your past. It's about reframing it. It's about saying, yes, that happened. And now I choose something greater. That is not fantasy. That is freedom. You have the right to evolve, to expand, to outgrow who you used to be. And faith is the tool that makes that possible. But it must be used daily, repeatedly, boldly. Don't let a single failure from years ago become a life sentence. Don't let someone else's opinion become your internal narrator. The only voice that must guide you now is the one you train in faith. Let it speak louder. Let it speak truer. Let it speak life. And soon, your past will not limit you. It will launch you. Let me ask you something personal now. How do you respond when the world shakes? When the deal falls through? When the numbers drop? When the people you counted on walk away? When life throws you a storm instead of sunshine? What do? This is where faith reveals its true value, not just as a motivator, but as a shield. Because real faith is not just about believing when everything goes right. Real faith holds steady when everything looks wrong. You see, most people live by external conditions. If things go well, they feel confident. If things go wrong, they fall apart. But faith teaches you something deeper. Your peace does not have to depend on your circumstances. When your belief is rooted in purpose, when you've trained your thoughts, when your identity is anchored, you remain steady while others stumble. You don't panic, you assess. You don't retreat, you adapt. You don't give up, you get better. Why? Because you no longer place your emotional state in the hands of the outside world. You've built it internally on the unshakable ground of faith. This is emotional mastery, not from control, but from belief. Because belief whispers, this is temporary. This is training. This is shaping me into something stronger. And when that becomes your reflex, you become dangerous to failure. Because failure can't frighten you anymore. You've made peace with discomfort. You've decided that obstacles are part of the path, not a detour from it. And now, you move differently. Where others see crisis, you see opportunity. Where others freeze, you find focus. Where others doubt, you deepen your discipline. That is the power of belief under pressure. Faith is not just for the good days. Faith is the anchor on the worst days. It holds your mind while the waves rise. It steadies your focus when fear knocks. And let me tell you, fear will knock. But if you've done the work, repeating your affirmations, visualizing your future, building a core of confidence, then when fear arrives, you don't open the door. You look it in the eye and say, not today. I know who I am. I know where I'm going. This emotional strength is not arrogance. It's awareness. You're not blind to risk. You just no longer bow to it. You're not pretending challenges don't exist. You're choosing not to shrink in front of them. Faith creates resilience. Faith gives you staying power. Faith tells you, this is part of the price, and I'm willing to pay it, because you know what's on the other side. And that knowing, that inner certainty, is stronger than anything the outside world can throw at you. So the next time life tests you, don't ask, why me? Ask, what is this preparing me for? And remind yourself, I'm not here by accident. I'm here by decision. And nothing will take that away from me. There is a strange and wonderful thing that happens when your faith becomes solid, when it's no longer something you practice once in a while, but something you live, breathe, and embody. The world begins to respond. Doors open. People appear. Resources seem to arrive right on time. Coincidences align so precisely, you can no longer call them coincidences. And you may wonder, where was all this before? The answer is simple. It was always there. But now you see it, because faith makes you ready. Faith sharpens your awareness. It tunes your mind to see what others overlook. It positions you to act quickly, confidently, and decisively, while the rest of the world hesitates, overthinks, and waits. Faith doesn't just help you believe in opportunity. It helps you recognize it. It makes you alert, prepared, and open. And that openness? That clarity? It draws success toward you. You become a magnet, not through force, but through alignment. Because when you walk in faith, people sense it. They feel your confidence. They hear the conviction in your voice. They're drawn to your energy, not because of what you have, but because of who you've become. Faith isn't loud, but it's unmistakable. It's a quiet power that speaks without words. I'm going somewhere, and I'm not waiting for permission. And that kind of mindset attracts those who can help you get there. It brings allies, mentors, opportunities, sometimes in the most unexpected forms. You don't have to chase every opportunity. You only need to be ready when it arrives. That's the key. Faith makes you ready. The fearful mind says, "What if I'm not enough?" The faithful mind says, "When the time comes, I'll rise to meet it." This mindset changes everything. Because let me remind you, opportunity is not rare. It's everywhere. It's in the conversation you almost didn't have. It's in the email you nearly ignored. It's in the idea you dismissed too quickly. But only those with faith can spot it, because only they are trained to look forward instead of back, up instead of down, and possibility instead of probability. The average mind sees problems. The faithful mind sees patterns. The average mind sees risk. The faithful mind sees a window. This is not magic. It's perception. And perception is shaped by belief. So if you want to attract more opportunity, build more faith. Speak with more conviction. Think with more clarity. Move with more purpose. And you will find that life becomes more cooperative. Not because life changed, but because you did. Faith expands your vision. And the wider your vision, the more doors you'll notice. So walk forward, eyes open, mind alert, heart grounded in belief. And the next time someone says, "You're lucky," you'll smile, because you'll know better. You weren't lucky. You were ready. And now we come to the close. But not the end. Because if you've listened carefully, if you've felt the weight of these words, then something inside you has already begun to shift. You are no longer asking, "Can I?" You are starting to say, "I will." You are no longer hoping someone else will show you the way. You are realizing you are the way. That is what faith does. It hands you the pen and says, "Write your story," and write it in bold. You may still feel unsure. That's normal. No one is born with unshakable belief. We build it. We rehearse it. We choose it. Over and over. And in the moments you can't find enough belief in yourself, borrow it. Borrow it from these words. Borrow it from someone who sees something in you. Borrow it from the version of you you haven't met yet, the one standing on the other side of fear, waiting for you to arrive. Because the only thing standing between you and your goal is the belief that you can't get there. And that belief, that's optional. So replace it. Replace it with faith, not blind, but earned, built through repetition, strengthened by thought, fueled by action. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to be fearless. You only need to be persistent in feeding the right thoughts to your mind. Speak your goal out loud, twice a day. See yourself living it. Feel it. Believe it. Act accordingly. Not once, but daily, until your subconscious mind not only accepts it, but begins to expect it. And once that shift occurs, once belief becomes your default instead of doubt, you will move through life differently. People will notice. Doors will open. You will walk not as a seeker, but as someone who has already claimed what is theirs. Because that's what faith is. It's the quiet decision that says, "I no longer negotiate with fear." It's the unwavering voice that says, "I already have it. Now I'm just catching up." So let this be your turning point. Let this be the moment you stop asking for permission to believe. Let this be the day you draw the line and say, "This is who I am. This is what I want. This is where I'm going. And nothing will move me." The world will try. Doubt will try. Old habits will try. But they are no match for someone who has decided. So now, the only question left is, have you decided? Have you decided to walk by faith? To build it with words, fuel it with repetition, and live by it with courage? If so, then I will leave you with one final truth. What the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. So go ahead, conceive it, believe it, and now, go achieve it. Ladies and gentlemen, let me begin with a truth I learned not from books, but from the lives of the most successful individuals I've ever studied. Your mind is always listening, not just to the world around you, but to you, and the way you speak to yourself, the words you repeat, the images you hold in your thoughts. That is the script your subconscious uses to write your future. What we're talking about today is not positive thinking. It's not affirmations taped to a mirror and forgotten. This is something much deeper, much more powerful. It's called autosuggestion. Now, what is autosuggestion? It is the channel between your conscious thoughts and your subconscious mind. It is how you influence yourself, not through willpower or emotion alone, but through deliberate repetition. You see, the subconscious does not think the way you and I do. It does not argue. It does not question. It accepts repeated thoughts as commands and acts on them. The subconscious doesn't ask, is this true? It asks, is this what we believe? And belief is built by repetition. What you say to yourself, especially with emotion, is the blueprint your mind uses to build your identity, your habits, and your results. Let me give it to you straight. You are always programming your mind. The only question is, are you doing it on purpose? Most people don't. They allow the world to do it for them. They absorb the opinions of others. They replay doubts, fears, and failures like a broken record. And then they wonder why their lives reflect limitation instead of possibility. But when you understand autosuggestion, truly understand it, you realize you can take back control. You can plant thoughts into your mind like seeds in soil, and if you feed them with repetition and feeling, they will grow. Now I want to be clear. This is not magic. This is not tricking your brain. This is training your mind. And like any training, it takes consistency. You don't say something once and expect it to change your life. You say it daily, with clarity, with emotion. You say it until your subconscious no longer resists, but accepts. And once it accepts, that's when the shift happens. That's when your thoughts begin shaping your behavior. That's when hesitation turns into movement. That's when fear starts to fade, because confidence has taken its place. In this series, I'm going to teach you how to use autosuggestion with precision, not just as a motivational tool, but as a mental discipline. And it begins now with a decision. Are you willing to become the author of your own belief system? Are you ready to speak to yourself with the same authority you give the world? Because if you are, then you're about to discover one of the most powerful tools ever placed in the hands of man. The ability to write your own programming and live the results. Let me tell you something that separates those who talk from those who transform. Words without emotion are like arrows without force. They never reach the target. You can repeat 1,000 affirmations, read your goals every morning, and still feel stuck. Why? Because without emotion, your subconscious doesn't listen. It hears you, yes, but it doesn't feel you. And that makes all the difference. Your subconscious mind is not logical. It's emotional. It responds not to the dry content of your words, but to the intensity behind them. The belief, the conviction, the feeling that says, this matters. So here's the truth most people miss. Autosuggestion is not just saying words. It's speaking them with feeling until your soul catches fire. When you declare a goal, don't mumble it. Don't whisper it like a suggestion to the universe. Say it like a man or woman on a mission. Say it like your life depends on it, because in many ways, it does. Think of emotion as the voltage in your internal wiring. Without it, your thoughts are powerless. With it, they light up your nervous system, energize your actions, and rewire your beliefs. Now, you might say, but what if I don't believe the words yet? That's fine. Belief is not required at the beginning, but repetition with emotion builds belief over time. Let me give you a simple example. You say to yourself, I am confident. I am focused. I am capable. At first, it may feel forced, fake. You might even laugh at it. But if you say it daily, looking yourself in the eye, breathing deeply, activating emotion, you begin to associate those words with your identity. And slowly, the line between repetition and reality starts to blur. That's the genius of autosuggestion. You're not pretending. You're rehearsing a new version of yourself until your subconscious accepts it as truth. Because here's the secret. The subconscious mind cannot distinguish between what is real and what is vividly imagined and emotionally repeated. It responds to intensity and frequency. Say it once, it notices. Say it 100 times with conviction, it obeys. You're not waiting for belief, you're building it. Brick by brick, thought by thought, feeling by feeling. This is why every instruction I give you from this point forward will require not just repetition, but emotional repetition. You must feel what you say. You must connect to it. You must let the words move you, or they will never move your life. So the next time you read your goal, don't just read it. Declare it. Close your eyes. Visualize the result. Feel the pride, the excitement, the power. Let that feeling wrap itself around your words. Because when thought and feeling unite, they become belief. And belief, my friend, changes everything. So don't just go through the motions. Speak with fire. Speak with purpose. Speak like you're planting the seed of a new reality. Because you are. And if you do it long enough, and strong enough, and often enough, that seed will grow. If you followed me this far, you already understand that words matter. But now we must go deeper because repetition alone is not enough. Emotion alone is not enough. To make autosuggestion work, you must connect it to something specific. A clear, measurable, and definite goal. Let me put it plainly. Your mind does not respond to vague ideas. It responds to precision. Saying, "I want more success," is not enough. Saying, "I want a better life," is not enough. Those are wishes, and wishes float away. Your subconscious needs coordinates. It needs a destination. It needs instruction. That's why I insist you write down your goal in exact terms. What you want, when you want it, and what you're willing to give in return. This is not a formality. It is the blueprint your subconscious will follow. You wouldn't expect a builder to construct a house from memory. Why would you expect your mind to build success from scattered thoughts? You must give it the plan. Now here's where autosuggestion comes in. Once you have your written goal, you begin to feed it to your subconscious, not once, but daily. You read it. You speak it. You visualize it. Always in the present tense. Always with emotion. Always as if it's already happening. Let's say your goal is to earn $100,000 within 12 months. Don't say, "I hope to make more money this year." Say, "I am earning $100,000 by June 1st, 2026. I deliver massive value. I attract clients easily. I am disciplined, focused, and unstoppable." That is instruction. That is command. That is how you begin to mold the invisible into form. And here's what happens when you repeat that kind of statement day after day. You begin to expect it. You begin to act in ways that support it. You begin to reject anything that contradicts it. Your subconscious aligns your behavior, habits, and perception to serve that goal. This is not magic. It is mental alignment. What you repeat becomes familiar. What becomes familiar becomes normal. And what's normal becomes real. Let me say that again. What you repeat becomes familiar. What becomes familiar becomes normal. And what's normal becomes real. Now imagine doing this with intention every single day. You are not just hoping anymore. You are programming. You are not trying. You are aligning. This is how success begins, not in the external world, but inside you, in quiet moments, when you speak your future aloud until your mind believes you. And belief is what triggers everything else. Your job is to plant. Your job is to water. Your job is to repeat. The harvest will come, but only if you've taken the time to build the root. That root is your definite chief aim, repeated daily with emotion through the power of autosuggestion. So if you've been vague in your goals, if you've been repeating general affirmations, if you've lacked structure, now is the time to correct it. Get clear. Get specific. Tie your words to a purpose. Because once your subconscious sees that you're serious, it will begin to open doors you didn't even know existed. Now let's talk about something practical. Let's talk about how autosuggestion actually changes your behavior. Because up to this point, you've learned that you can influence your subconscious by repeating words and images tied to a definite goal. You've learned that emotion gives power to those words. You've learned that belief is built through repetition. But here's the question most people ask next. If I keep repeating these affirmations, when do I start seeing results? Let me give you a powerful answer. You will see results the moment your dominant thoughts begin to shape your actions. Because ultimately, that's what autosuggestion does. It aligns your mindset with your movement. It influences not just what you think, but what you do. You see, the mind and the body are not separate. Your thoughts determine your emotions. Your emotions influence your energy. And your energy decides how you show up, how you respond, how much effort you give, how long you persist. Let me say it plainly. If you change your dominant thoughts, you change your dominant behaviors. Let's say your old inner language was filled with doubt. I'm not ready. I always quit. People like me don't succeed. If those thoughts live in your subconscious, they will control your actions. You'll hesitate. You'll procrastinate. You'll sabotage yourself. But now, let's say you begin to reprogram your mind with intention. I finish what I start. I learn fast and take bold action. I am worthy of success. You repeat these thoughts with feeling, with clarity, tied to a goal. And suddenly, you start moving differently. You take action faster. You speak with more certainty. You follow through more consistently. Not because the world changed, but because you did. Your subconscious begins to believe the new identity you're feeding it. And once that belief sets in, it demands consistency. Your behavior begins to match your inner expectations. That's when others start to notice. You seem more confident. You've really changed. What happened to you? And you'll know it wasn't an accident. It was autosuggestion in action. Let me tell you something vital. Autosuggestion is not about convincing the world. It's about instructing yourself. The world will catch up. The world always reflects the strongest signal you're sending. But that signal doesn't come from surface-level thinking. It comes from the core programming inside your subconscious. And that programming is your responsibility. You must choose what loops run in your head. You must decide what story you rehearse every day. Because what you rehearse, you perform. And most people, they're performing a script they didn't even write. It was handed to them by parents, teachers, society, failure, fear. Autosuggestion lets you take the pen back. It lets you say, this is who I am now. This is what I believe now. This is how I act now. And you don't need permission to make that shift. You just need repetition, consistency, and emotional connection to your goal. So if you want to start seeing change, not someday, but now, then pay attention to the thoughts you repeat most often. Because those thoughts are directing your energy. And energy, focused and repeated, becomes behavior. And behavior, sustained over time, becomes results. This is not a motivational slogan. It's a system. It works whether you believe in it or not. But when you do believe in it, when you own it, it works even faster. So take this seriously. Use your affirmations like tools. Use them to instruct your mind, not just inspire your mood. Use them with purpose, with power, with vision, and then watch as your actions rise to meet the identity you've planted. Up to now, we've talked about the creative power of autosuggestion, how it can build confidence, shape identity, and direct action. But now we must talk about the other side, the darker side, the danger of letting your mind drift without discipline. Because make no mistake, autosuggestion works both ways. It can elevate you, or it can destroy you. It can build belief, or embed fear. It can move you forward, or hold you prisoner. Let me be absolutely clear. Every thought you repeat is an instruction. Every phrase you allow to echo becomes a seed. Every emotion you feed grows into habit. If you do not take control of your thoughts, someone or something else will. The world will offer you thousands of ideas every single day, and most of them will not serve you. They will come through news headlines, social media, conversations with doubters, your own memories, and your own insecurities. And if you're not careful, you'll start to repeat those messages without realizing it. You'll say things like, that's just my luck. I can't afford it. I always mess this up. I'm not that kind of person. People like me don't win. You might think these are just harmless expressions, but your subconscious doesn't know the difference. It hears the words. It accepts them through repetition, and it builds your life accordingly. That's the real danger, when negative thoughts become familiar, and then normal, and then reality. You begin to identify with your limitations. You stop reaching. You shrink your dreams to match your fears. And worst of all, you don't even notice it happening. But here's the good news. You can reverse it. If you've been feeding your mind fear, doubt, and limitation, you can stop. You can uproot those thoughts like weeds. You can replace them with better ones. How? With intention, with repetition, with emotion. The same tools that built the wrong belief system can now build the right one. It won't happen overnight, but it will happen if you do the work. Let me remind you, your mind is programmable. It will believe whatever you tell it most often, especially if that message comes with strong emotion. So instead of saying, I can't, start saying, I'm learning. Instead of, I always fail, try, I bounce back stronger. Instead of, this is just who I am, say, I'm becoming who I choose to be. This isn't about pretending. It's about reclaiming control. Because if you don't speak life into your mind, the world will speak fear into it. If you don't install your own belief system, you'll inherit someone else's, and it may be broken. So from this moment on, become ruthless about what you repeat. Eliminate toxic thoughts from your vocabulary. Shut the door on self-sabotage. Refuse to give your energy to ideas that weaken you. And when that old voice of doubt shows up, as it always will, answer it with something stronger. Answer it with the voice you've trained through autosuggestion. The voice of purpose. The voice of clarity. The voice of belief. Because belief, repeated with enough conviction, always drowns out fear. So speak powerfully. Think precisely. And never again let your mind wander without your permission. Let me ask you something simple, but life-changing. Do you have a daily system for programming your own mind? Because here's the truth most people never learn. Autosuggestion only works if it becomes a habit, not a moment, not a phase, a habit, a daily discipline. You can't speak with power once a month and expect your subconscious to obey. You can't say your goal once in January and expect results in December. It doesn't work that way. Your mind is shaped by what it experiences repeatedly, and that means you must give it a daily signal strong enough to override the noise of the world. So today, I'm not just telling you to believe. I'm giving you the structure to make belief automatic. Here's the routine I want you to build. It's simple. It's clear. And if you follow it, it will change everything. The daily autosuggestion ritual. 1. Write down your definite goal clearly and specifically. Not just, I want more money, or I want to be successful. Write the exact amount, the deadline, and what you're willing to give in return. Example. I am earning $150,000 by May 1st, 2026, through disciplined work in my business. I provide real value, and I am rewarded abundantly. 2. Read that goal aloud twice a day, morning and night. Not silently, out loud. Let your own voice become a declaration, a command, a statement of fact. 3. Visualize the result as you say it. Don't just speak, see. Imagine the outcome. Feel it in your body. Picture the evidence of success, the bank statement, the moment you celebrate, the life you're living. 4. Add emotion. Turn words into belief. Smile. Breathe deep. Say it with your chest, not your lips. Let your subconscious hear not just the sentence, but the certainty behind it. 5. Repeat this ritual for 5 to 10 minutes every day, without exception, even when you don't feel like it. Especially then, because repetition under pressure is what builds strength. Now listen carefully. You may not feel different on day 1. You may not believe it yet. But if you continue, your subconscious will. And when that shift happens, you won't need to force discipline. You won't have to beg for confidence. You won't need to fake belief. It will become automatic. That's what a habit is, the part of you that runs even when motivation doesn't show up. And your goal is to make this ritual as normal as brushing your teeth, as natural as putting on your shoes. It should feel strange not to do it, because this is not just self-talk. It's not just mental hygiene. This is mental reprogramming. This is rewiring your subconscious, day by day, until your beliefs, your habits, and your results are all working toward the same future. So build this ritual like your life depends on it. Because your future does. And remember, discipline today creates confidence tomorrow. Repetition today builds results next month. Emotion today writes the identity you'll live in next year. Start now. Stick with it. And let your mind follow the path you've chosen, because you chose it every single day. Let me ask you something direct. When life gets hard, who do you listen to first, your doubt or your discipline? Because every one of us walks through life accompanied by a voice. That voice runs constantly, narrating, advising, doubting, encouraging. And here's the truth. The strongest voice you'll ever hear is the one inside your own mind. It can be your best friend or your biggest enemy. And most people don't realize they can choose which one it becomes. You're not born with a positive inner voice. You train it. You teach it how to speak to you. You condition it through repetition and emotion, in other words, through autosuggestion. And the voice you train will be the one that shows up when pressure hits. So when the deal falls apart, when the motivation fades, when everything around you says, stop now, that voice will answer. And it will say either, I knew you'd fail, or, this is temporary. You've got this. Keep moving. That one sentence can change your entire course. Now listen to me carefully. Autosuggestion is not just about ambition. It's about preparation. You are rehearsing the voice you'll hear in crisis. You are building the strength you'll depend on when everything feels uncertain. And you do that now, before the storm comes. You don't train soldiers in the middle of battle. You train them daily, until their instincts take over. And that's exactly what you're doing with your mind. You're teaching it what to say. You're showing it what to believe. You're preparing it to lead you, not betray you, when it matters most. So don't wait for confidence to appear on its own. Build it. Install it. Repeat it. Say the things you wish you believed, until you do. I finish what I start. I stay calm under pressure. I always find a way. I am becoming exactly who I was meant to be. These are not empty slogans. They are mental instructions. They are blueprints for identity. And when repeated daily, they begin to override the noise. You start to notice something incredible. That old critical voice gets quieter. That anxious inner chatter loses power. And the new voice, the the one you've trained, takes the lead. This is not delusion. This is design. You're not ignoring reality. You're shaping it from the inside out. So the next time that voice whispers something weak, answer it with something stronger. Something you planted. Something you built. That is the voice of your higher self. That is the voice of your future. That is the voice of a person who no longer lives on accident, but by intention. And once you hear that voice clearly, you won't want to go back. Because now, you finally trust the voice that matters most. Let me share with you something most people get completely backwards. They believe change begins on the outside. They say, when I get the right job, I'll feel confident. When I finally make enough money, I'll think bigger. When life calms down, I'll focus on success. But that's not how lasting transformation works. Real change starts on the inside. Always. Your external world is a mirror. It reflects the beliefs, expectations, and identity you carry on the inside. And nothing shifts out there until something shifts in here. That's why autosuggestion is not just a mindset trick. It's a results strategy. Because the moment your inner dialogue changes, the moment your identity upgrades, the moment your subconscious starts to accept a new version of you, the world around you starts to respond differently. You walk differently. You speak with more conviction. You ask for things you used to shy away from. You make decisions faster. You see opportunities you never noticed before. Why? Because your mind is no longer tuned to lack. It's tuned to possibility. You've trained it to expect progress, to assume growth, to believe in outcomes instead of obstacles. And this inner shift creates what some call luck, but what I call alignment. Doors begin to open because you're knocking on the right ones now. People respond to you with more respect because you speak with authority now. You attract partnerships, clients, mentors, not because of chance, but because of the energy and identity you now project. Let me say it clearly. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you are. And autosuggestion is how you become the version of yourself that's ready for what you want. Think about that. If you want wealth, you must build the mindset of someone who manages it. If you want success, you must develop the habits and focus of someone who creates it. If you want to lead, you must believe your voice matters before others follow it. And this can't be faked. Not for long. Your subconscious runs the show. And if it still holds outdated beliefs of scarcity, failure, and unworthiness, they will sabotage your efforts. That's why repetition is non-negotiable. Daily autosuggestion is the process of replacing the old programming, line by line, with something better, something aligned, something powerful. And once that new code is installed, your external reality begins to match it. It starts small. You wake up with more focus. You finish tasks you used to avoid. You reach out instead of hesitate. You move forward instead of stall. But over time, these small shifts compound. And suddenly, the results others chase begin chasing you. Not because of luck, not because of some secret, but because your thoughts, emotions, words, and actions are now saying the same thing. And that kind of alignment, it's magnetic, it's productive, it's unshakable. So if you're waiting for the world to change, stop. Change yourself. Use your words. Use your repetition. Use your voice. Do the inner work. And the outer world will have no choice but to catch up. There's a powerful truth I want you to understand now. Your subconscious mind never stops working. While you rest, it works. While you sleep, it listens. While you live your life, distracted, busy, overwhelmed, it keeps running in the background, shaping everything you experience. This means one very important thing. You must be intentional about what you give it, because it doesn't know how to reject. It only receives. Your subconscious is not your judge. It does not weigh pros and cons. It does not say, is this good for us? Or, is this true? It simply says, understood. And once it accepts an idea, whether you meant to feed it that idea or not, it starts working to turn it into reality. This is why I say, the real danger is not what you know you're thinking, but what you allow yourself to absorb unconsciously. Every joke about failure, every song full of negativity, every complaint you casually repeat, every story you tell that reinforces limitation. It all gets stored. It all gets processed. It all becomes part of the code. So here's the question. Are you programming your mind on purpose? Or are you letting the world do it for you? You see, the power of autosuggestion isn't just in what you say consciously. It's in the fact that your subconscious keeps running long after you've stopped speaking, and that includes during your sleep. Think about this. If the last thing you tell yourself before sleep is, I'm overwhelmed, I'll never get it all done, tomorrow's going to be hard, then your subconscious takes that input and rehearses it all night long. But if instead you say, I rest deeply and wake up strong, I am preparing for a powerful day, my mind is resetting for clarity and creativity, then your mind works for you while you sleep. So here's my suggestion. Make auto-suggestion part of your bedtime ritual. Repeat your goals before bed. Affirm your identity. Visualize success, calm, growth, whatever matters most right now. Let those thoughts be the final command your subconscious receives before it goes to work overnight. Because that mind of yours? It's like a powerful assistant that works 24 hours a day, but it only works with the instructions you provide. You don't have to micromanage it, but you do have to feed it properly. Be especially mindful of what you allow in during quiet moments. The first minutes after waking, the last before sleep. Those are your most impressionable states and the most powerful times to use auto-suggestion. So speak carefully. Feed wisely. Be deliberate. The subconscious never rests, but it does wait for instruction. Make sure you're the one giving it. Now that you've walked with me through the power of auto-suggestion, let me leave you with one final truth. You are either programming your mind or being programmed by the world. There is no in-between. Every day you either give your subconscious clear instructions, or you allow fear, doubt, noise, and distraction to do it for you. Let's be honest, the world is not neutral. It's full of voices. Voices selling fear. Voices feeding doubt. Voices pushing limitation as realism. And if you don't intentionally speak louder within yourself, those voices win. But now you know better. You've seen the power of repetition. You understand that belief is not something you wait for. It's something you build. Through your words. Through your emotion. Through your daily focus. You are not powerless. You are not stuck. You are not a victim of circumstance. You are the author of the thoughts you rehearse, and therefore, the architect of the life you live. So the question becomes, will you take control of the script? Will you give your mind something better to believe? Because here's the secret. Your subconscious will believe anything you feed it, if you feed it often enough, emotionally enough, and clearly enough. It doesn't care if it's a truth or a lie. It only cares if it's consistent. And once it accepts a thought as truth, it works day and night to make it real. This is not theory. This is not wishful thinking. This is how every lasting change begins. Let's review what you now have in your hands. You know how to craft a clear, definite goal. You know how to speak it with emotion. You know how to repeat it daily. You know how to build a new identity from the inside out. You know how to replace fear with certainty. You know how to use auto-suggestion as a tool, a habit, and a weapon. So what's left? Decision, discipline, consistency. You already have the voice. Now you must choose the message. Make your morning a declaration. Make your nights a rehearsal for greatness. Make your mind a space that obeys your command, not a sponge for the chaos of the world. Because the truth is simple. If you don't choose your thoughts, someone else will. If you don't speak your future, someone else will write it for you. If you don't install your beliefs on purpose, you'll inherit beliefs by accident. And no one ever lived an extraordinary life by accident. So let this be the beginning. Today, not tomorrow. Right now, not someday. Choose your thoughts. Write your goal. Repeat it with fire. Visualize it with precision. Feel it until it becomes natural. Live it until it becomes real. Your subconscious is listening. What will you tell it?
Why general knowledge won't make you rich. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something that may surprise you. Knowledge alone is not power. Let me repeat that. Knowledge alone is not power. It's a common lie we've all been sold. Sounds noble, sounds wise, but it's not the truth. If knowledge were power, every schoolteacher would be a millionaire. Every professor would be a tycoon. Every librarian would have financial freedom. But they don't. Why? Because general knowledge is not enough. It doesn't matter how much you know. What matters is how you use what you know, and whether it applies directly to a clear, specific purpose. That's the difference between general knowledge and what I call specialized knowledge. And that difference, my friend, is the difference between talking about success and building it. You see, general knowledge is scattered. It's wide. It's impressive. But it doesn't build anything by itself. Specialized knowledge is focused. It's directed. It's tied to a definite aim, and that's what makes it powerful. Let me give you an example. A man can know the history of the Roman Empire, the height of Mount Everest, and the capital of every country on earth. But if he doesn't know how to turn any of that into service, value, or strategy, he will remain broke. Meanwhile, someone else may know only one thing but know it deeply. And if he applies that knowledge toward a specific purpose, with action and persistence, he will succeed where others merely admire their own trivia. So the question is not, how much do you know? The real question is, do you know something specific that the world is willing to pay for? Can you solve a problem? Can you do it better than most? And are you using that knowledge toward a clearly defined purpose? Because that's where power begins. Let me go further. You don't even have to personally possess the knowledge, as long as you know how to organize it, direct it, and apply it. Some of the most successful people I've ever studied were not the smartest in the room, but they were smart enough to gather experts around them. They didn't memorize everything, they mobilized people who did. That's the secret of leadership. You don't have to know everything. You just have to know what needs to be done, and how to bring the right minds together to make it happen. That's specialized knowledge. And it's your responsibility to find it, gather it, and use it. So today I challenge you, stop chasing random facts, stop admiring how much you know, and start focusing on what knowledge you actually need to reach your specific goal. You can start poor. You can start uneducated. But if you are willing to learn what your mission demands, and apply it with discipline, you will rise. Because in this world, people are not rewarded for what they know. They are rewarded for what they do with what they know, and how specifically they serve others through that knowledge. That's the beginning of specialized knowledge. And that's the beginning of real power. A diploma won't make you rich, application might. Let me speak plainly. A college degree is not a guarantee of success. In fact, it's often mistaken as one, and that's where many go wrong. I've met men with walls full of framed diplomas and empty bank accounts. I've also met men with no formal education, but with minds razor-sharp, focused on one purpose, and they built empires. What's the difference? The educated man often mistakes schooling for learning. But schooling ends when the ceremony is over. Learning never stops. Success doesn't care about your credentials. It cares about your capacity to gather useful, relevant, and applied knowledge. Let me say that again. It's not about what's in your head. It's about what you do with what's in your head. The world is full of well-educated failures. Men and women who know theory, can recite data, quote studies, but don't know how to make any of it move a business, solve a problem, or create real-world value. And why is that? Because they were trained to absorb, but never taught to apply. Specialized knowledge doesn't mean you memorize more. It means you target your learning. You learn what matters for your goal. You become a surgeon of the mind, cutting away distraction, drilling into exactly what your vision requires. If your dream is to build wealth through real estate, why are you buried in economic philosophy? If your aim is to launch a product, why are you wasting hours reading theories of innovation instead of talking to customers? Stop studying life from the bleachers. Get into the game. Study by doing. Learn from failure. Test ideas in motion. Let the marketplace correct your assumptions. The most powerful knowledge you'll ever gain won't come from a book. It will come from observation, experimentation, and correction. Do you know who always wins? The man who asks, "What do I need to know right now to move forward?" and then finds the answer fast and uses it. That's specialized knowledge in action. So don't be discouraged if you weren't top of your class. Don't be embarrassed if you don't have fancy credentials. Be proud if you're willing to learn what your mission demands. Because that humility, that hunger, that clarity will take you further than any diploma ever could. You must become a lifelong student, but a student with a mission, a learner with direction, someone who studies not to impress, but to progress. Your learning should be tied to a definite purpose. And every day you should ask, what knowledge does my dream demand of me today? And then go get it, apply it, refine it, use it. That's how you turn information into income. That's how you make your mind an asset, not just a storage room. Because in the real world, what matters is not your degree. It's your usefulness. And usefulness is always built on specialized knowledge, acquired with purpose, directed by vision, and applied with persistence. You don't have to know everything, but you must know how to get it. Let me relieve you of one heavy burden. You do not need to know everything yourself. In fact, trying to become an expert in everything is not only exhausting, it's unnecessary. Real intelligence isn't about knowing all the answers. It's about knowing where to find them and who can help you apply them. Some of the most successful men in history were not the smartest people in the room, but they were the best organizers of knowledge. They surrounded themselves with talent. They built networks of specialists. They didn't try to be the entire orchestra. They were the conductor. And that is leadership. If you have a clear goal and the specialized knowledge to support it, either personally or through others, you can move mountains. You don't need to memorize law to build a successful business, but you need a good lawyer. You don't need to write code to launch a great app, but you must know what result the code must deliver. You don't need to be a tax expert, but you must know what numbers matter to your bottom line. So here's the truth. You can borrow knowledge as long as you lead it, organize it, and apply it toward your definite purpose. This is why your ability to coordinate intelligence is more valuable than trying to store it all in your head. Successful people are not necessarily those who know more, but those who build systems where knowledge flows to them as needed. You don't need to own the library. You need to know which book to pull at the right moment. And if that book has legs, wears shoes, and has a name, even better. In the business world, this means building what I call an intelligence network. People you can call on when you need clarity, perspective, or expert input. But don't just collect contacts, connect them to purpose. Gather people not because they're impressive, but because they are relevant to your mission. Respect their knowledge. Learn from them. Leverage what they know with humility and precision. Now, some will ask, but isn't that using people? No, it's working with people. When your vision is clear and your goal is valuable, you attract others who want to be part of something bigger than themselves. And that's not manipulation. That's collaboration. Every great achievement in history was the result of minds working together. Specialists, thinkers, doers, all unified by a leader with a burning desire and a definite plan. So don't waste time trying to become a master of every trade. Become a master of direction. Become a student of clarity. And become a leader who brings the right minds to the right table at the right time. That is the highest use of specialized knowledge. You are the architect. You don't need to make every brick, but you must know what's missing and how to fill the gap. Gather knowledge like a builder gathers tools, each for a specific task. And never forget, the greatest tool you have is your ability to coordinate. If you stop learning, you start losing. Let me be clear. Specialized knowledge is not something you get once and keep forever. It must be renewed, refreshed, updated. Otherwise, it becomes obsolete. And obsolete knowledge is as dangerous as ignorance because it gives the illusion that you're prepared, when in truth you're falling behind. In the world of achievement, yesterday's knowledge will not win today's game. We are living in a fast-moving world. Industries evolve. Technology changes. Markets shift. And what worked 5 years ago may no longer apply. So here's what I tell every serious student of success. You must make learning a habit, not an event. Just as the body needs food daily, your mind needs fresh insight, new information, sharper perspective. Without it, your ambition starves. You can't afford to be static. You can't say, I already know this, and shut the door on growth. The moment you stop learning, you start shrinking, not just in skill, but in opportunity. Think of specialized knowledge like a living currency. If you keep it circulating, it gains value. If you lock it away and forget about it, it depreciates. Let me ask you, are you still relying on strategies that worked 10 years ago? Are you trusting old habits to solve new problems? Are you defending outdated knowledge out of pride instead of upgrading it with humility? Then beware, because the world is not waiting. Your competitors are evolving. The marketplace is changing. And your goals are growing, are you? The most successful people I've studied never stop learning. They read. They ask. They explore. They challenge what they know. They understand that specialized knowledge has a shelf life and they treat it accordingly. And you must do the same. Make it part of your daily rhythm. Learn something relevant to your goal. Study someone who's already achieved it. Stay curious even when you think you've mastered it. Success is never owned, it is rented, and the rent is due every day in the form of learning. This is not about academic degrees. It's about active discipline. It's about using your mind as a tool, not a museum. You don't have to chase every trend. You don't need to know everything about everything. But you do need to stay sharp where it counts. Ask yourself daily, what do I know that's no longer true? What don't I know that I need to? What have I been avoiding learning because it challenges my comfort zone? Growth begins where your comfort ends. And the act of updating your knowledge is a declaration. I refuse to become outdated. I choose to stay relevant. I commit to growing. If you want to remain effective, respected, and results-driven, keep learning. Because the only real security in this world is not money. It's not status. It's not who you know. It's the ability to adapt through specialized learning again and again. Knowledge becomes power only when you use it. Let me share a truth that most people never realize. Knowledge does not pay dividends until it is organized and applied. You can read every book, take every course, attend every seminar, but until you put what you've learned into motion, it has no value. Let that sink in. Unused knowledge is just mental clutter. Only organized, directed, applied knowledge becomes power. This is where most people stop short. They gather information but never shape it into a plan. They admire what they know but never use it to build anything. And then they wonder why results never come. But I'll tell you why. Because knowledge alone is passive. Action is what gives it life. The key is to take your specialized knowledge, no matter how small, and link it to a definite purpose. Let me say it another way. You don't need to be a genius. You just need to know something useful and then apply it toward a goal that matters. Knowledge by itself is potential energy, but it becomes active energy when tied to a clear goal, a definite plan, and persistent execution. That's the recipe. Every time. Let's break it down. You gain specialized knowledge about a skill, let's say marketing. Great. But now what? If you don't create a plan to use that skill for your business, your career, your brand, then what's the point? If it's not directed toward a purpose, it just sits in your head unused, unproductive. But the moment you say, I will use this marketing knowledge to grow my company by 40% this year, and you back it with a plan, now it starts working for you. Now your brain sees a target. Your actions follow. Your thinking becomes sharper. And your learning accelerates because now it has direction. This is the big mistake I see people make. They confuse learning with doing. They spend years preparing but never deploy what they've gathered. You don't need 10 more years of knowledge. You need to take what you already know and organize it into steps that move you forward. That's what specialized knowledge is for. It's not about having facts. It's about using facts to move results. Let me put it bluntly. If your knowledge doesn't produce results, it's not yet power. And if it's not producing results, ask yourself, do I have a clear, definite aim? Do I have a plan to apply what I know? Am I taking consistent action? If the answer is no, then your knowledge is just potential. And potential doesn't pay the bills. Applied knowledge does. So today I challenge you. Take inventory of what you know. Look at your skills, your experience, your insight. Then ask, how can I apply this right now towards something specific and measurable? Create a structure. Turn knowledge into a system. Attach it to purpose. And move. Because power isn't in what you know. Power lives in what you do with what you know. You don't need all the brains, just the right ones around you. Now let's go one level higher. Maybe you say, Napoleon, I have a goal, but I don't have the expertise I need. I don't know enough about finances, or marketing, or law, or management. That's fine. You don't need to be the expert, you need to know how to lead them. The greatest achievers I've studied were never one-man shows. They were organizers, coordinators, strategic thinkers who knew how to build teams of knowledge around a vision. The truth is, specialized knowledge can always be acquired. And if not acquired personally, it can be assembled. Let me repeat that. You don't have to possess all the knowledge, but you must gather those who do. And you must organize them toward your definite major purpose. That's what I call an intelligence mastermind. Not just any group of people. Not just a network, but a focused alliance where every person brings a specific type of knowledge. And you, as the leader, unify that intelligence for a single aim. Think of Henry Ford. He didn't know how to build every single part of an automobile. In fact, he was mocked for what he didn't know. But do you know what he did have? He had a push-button desk, and at the push of a button, he could summon engineers, lawyers, accountants, and designers. He surrounded himself with knowledge and directed it like a general leads an army. So don't waste time trying to know everything. Invest your time into becoming a better organizer of knowledge. Ask yourself, who do I need around me to accelerate this goal? Where can I find minds sharper than mine in this field? How can I present a vision so compelling others want to contribute their expertise? You see, people with specialized knowledge are not hard to find, but they are selective in whom they serve. They don't follow confusion. They follow clarity. So if you bring a clear goal, a definite plan, and strong leadership, you'll be surprised how many people are willing to join you. And that's where synergy happens. That's where progress multiplies. Because now you're not growing alone, you're growing with combined intelligence. Let me be even more practical. If you want to build a company, don't try to learn every function yourself. Build a team with someone who understands branding. Bring in someone who understands finances. Find someone who knows your customer better than you do. Then you coordinate. You direct. You lead. That's how specialized knowledge scales. It moves from what I know to what my system knows. Because ultimately, you are not paid to know, you are paid to deliver results. And results come faster when you learn to mobilize the minds of others. So don't make the mistake of isolating yourself in pursuit of knowledge. You'll move faster with collaboration. You'll go further with focused delegation. And if you're bold enough to gather knowledge, whether from books, people, mentors, or experience, and apply it toward one vision with clarity and consistency, then nothing can stop you. Beware the trap of endless learning without action. Let me offer a word of caution. Not all knowledge builds. Not all learning lifts you up. In fact, there's a dangerous kind of learning that quietly destroys dreams, and most people don't even recognize it. I call it the trap of the eternal student. You know the type. They're always studying, always preparing. They read every book, watch every lecture, attend every workshop. They know the theories. They talk the language. They collect credentials. But there's just one problem. They never do anything. They're caught in the illusion of progress. They mistake motion for movement. They believe that someday, when they've finally learned enough, they'll be ready. But that day never comes. Why? Because they're addicted to safety through study instead of growth through action. Now don't get me wrong, I am not against learning. But I am absolutely against learning as an excuse to avoid risk, decision, and execution. Knowledge is not the goal. Results are. You don't get paid for how much you know. You get paid for what you do with what you know. The marketplace rewards application, not accumulation. Let me say it plainly. Specialized knowledge without action is a mental museum, impressive but useless. It is better to know one thing deeply and act on it than to know 100 things and act on none. Some of the most successful men I've studied were not the most educated, but they were the most decisive. They learned fast. They learned on purpose. And then they moved. They knew that experience is a teacher far more brutal and honest than any book. And they embraced it. So ask yourself, am I learning to move forward or just to feel productive? Am I hiding behind another course, another book, another mentor? Am I delaying action in the name of just a little more knowledge? If the answer is yes, it's time to break that pattern. You already know enough to start. You already have the resources to take one meaningful step. And that step, no matter how small, will teach you more than another 6 months of theory. Start messy. Start unsure. Start anyway. Because once you begin moving, you'll see what knowledge you actually need and what you don't. And more importantly, the knowledge you gain while acting will stick deeper, hit harder, and serve you longer than anything you learn in a vacuum. Let me remind you, you don't need perfect information. You need enough information to move with purpose, then adjust as you go. That's how real achievers operate. They don't wait for 100% clarity. They move at 70% and let feedback sharpen the rest. And when you live this way, you discover something powerful. You stop chasing knowledge for the sake of learning, and you start harvesting knowledge for the sake of building. That is the real purpose of specialized knowledge. Not to make you feel smarter, but to make you more effective. So stop stalling. Stop preparing forever. Stop studying your way into stagnation. Use what you know. Test it. Apply it. Let it shape your next move. Because specialized knowledge becomes powerful not in theory, but in motion. And motion is the only thing that turns vision into value. Create a strategy for learning with purpose. Now that you understand the difference between motion and movement, now that you know learning alone won't make you rich, let me ask you, do you have a personal strategy for what, when, and how you learn? You see, most people learn reactively. They stumble across books. They follow trends. They consume whatever appears in front of them. But this is like trying to build a house by picking up random tools with no blueprint. If your goal is clear, your learning must be intentional. Every new piece of knowledge should be tested against one question. Will this help me reach my definite goal faster, better, or more efficiently? If the answer is no, leave it. Because in the pursuit of success, not all learning is equal. Some learning is urgent, some is foundational, and some is just distraction wearing the mask of productivity. You must become ruthless with your focus. Here's what I recommend. Build your personal learning plan. Start with your definite major purpose. Define it clearly. What do you want? By when? What do you need to know to make it happen? Identify the specific knowledge gaps. Ask, what do I currently not know that this goal demands of me? List the most efficient ways to acquire that knowledge. This might be books, mentors, online courses, apprenticeship, direct experience, even failure. Allocate focus time to learn daily. Just 30 focused minutes per day over 1 year makes you an expert in most areas. That's over 180 hours, targeted, deliberate, and purposeful. Immediately apply what you learn. Reading is not learning. Doing is. Teach it. Test it. Build with it. Fail forward if needed, but move. You are not here to impress people with how much you know. You're here to achieve something meaningful. And to do that, your knowledge must serve your purpose, not distract from it. Let me tell you what I've seen in those who succeed most. They're not always the most talented, but they are the most clear, the most focused, and the most committed to learning only what matters. They don't drown in information, they drink only what nourishes their mission. If you don't build your own curriculum, someone else will do it for you. And chances are, it will keep you average. So don't just collect content. Curate it. Sharpen it. Connect it to your aim like steel to a sword. You don't need 10 certifications. You need the one key insight that unlocks the next door. And when you approach learning this way, when your mind is guided by vision, not vanity, you become unstoppable. Because you're no longer wasting energy on what's popular. You're investing energy into what's relevant. You become a builder, not a browser. A producer, not a spectator. A focused student of your own future. And that is how specialized knowledge becomes the most valuable asset in your entire life. Specialized knowledge attracts people, power, and possibility. Let me tell you something remarkable. When you begin to move with purpose, when you apply specialized knowledge consistently, when you align what you know with what you're building, the world starts to respond differently. People notice. They feel your certainty. They respect your clarity. They begin to trust your direction even if they don't fully understand it. This is no coincidence. Specialized knowledge creates magnetism. Why? Because most people drift. Most people dabble. They don't know what they want. They don't apply what they've learned. They don't speak with conviction because they've never built anything worth believing in. But you've taken the time to think. You've defined your aim. You've organized your knowledge. You've tested it through action. You've made it real. And when you do that, you develop what I call intellectual gravity. You begin to attract collaborators who see your vision clearly, mentors who respect your discipline, opportunities that fit your focus, results that amplify your belief. It's not luck. It's not magic. It's alignment. When your mind, your message, your knowledge, and your action are all telling the same story, you become a force. You don't chase people. You attract the right ones. You don't beg for resources. You begin to generate them. And all of that begins with knowledge, but not just any knowledge. The right knowledge, applied the right way, for the right purpose. Let me be practical. If you're building a business and you speak with the clarity of someone who knows exactly what they're doing, you don't have to beg people to invest, to join, to support. They come to you. Why? Because people follow confidence, and confidence comes from earned knowledge. Not theoretical. Not assumed. Earned. Through experience. Through testing. Through application. Specialized knowledge builds that foundation. It becomes your internal proof that you are the real thing, that you've done the work, that you didn't skip steps. And in a world full of noise, that makes you stand out. Now here's something else. The more you apply your specialized knowledge, the more you refine it. You begin to see patterns others miss. You simplify what others overcomplicate. You move faster because you've cut out the irrelevant. And people love clarity. They pay for clarity. They trust clarity. So what does this mean for you? It means your knowledge isn't just helping you build. It's helping others believe. Your depth becomes their confidence. Your direction becomes their invitation. That's how you rise. Not by shouting louder, but by thinking clearer. Not by being everywhere, but by going deeper where it matters. And you must protect that clarity. Don't scatter your focus chasing trends. Don't dilute your message to please everyone. Don't abandon your system when it gets hard. Stand strong in what you know. Continue sharpening it. Continue applying it. Let your work speak for itself. Because when you do, you'll find that doors begin to open. And behind them are the people, places, and moments that take you further than you could ever go alone. Knowledge is power, but only when you lead it. Let's bring this all together. You now understand what separates the dreamers from the doers. It isn't talent. It isn't luck. It's not even education in the traditional sense. The difference is this. The successful man identifies exactly what he wants, and then learns exactly what is required to get it. He doesn't drown in information. He doesn't study endlessly without purpose. He doesn't hoard knowledge like treasure. He uses it. He refines it. He applies it with strategy, focus, and fire. That's specialized knowledge, and it is one of the cornerstones of all success. Now I must remind you of something critical. Knowledge is only potential power. It becomes real power only when it is organized into definite plans of action and directed toward a clearly defined goal. If you're still waiting to feel ready before you act, let this be your wake-up call. You will never feel ready, but you are far more equipped than you realize. If you simply start where you are and let experience teach you the rest. The man who rises in this world is not the man who knows everything. He is the man who finds out what must be done, learns what he must learn, and moves forward with intensity and resolve. That can be you. It's not about being perfect. It's about being willing. Willing to learn. Willing to unlearn. Willing to organize what you've gathered and put it to work day after day. So what do you do now? You begin building your knowledge system. You write down your major goal. You identify what knowledge that goal demands. You acquire it personally or through others. You test it in the real world. You adapt, evolve, and stay sharp. You repeat the process for as long as your ambition lives. That's the mindset. That's the method. That's how you separate yourself from the crowd. And let me say this. No man ever became successful by accident. He became successful by learning on purpose. So don't wait. Don't wish. Don't wander. Decide. Direct. Discipline. Deliver. That's the process. If you truly want what you say you want, you will not avoid learning. You will not resent the work. You will not cling to old ideas that no longer serve you. Instead, you will build a mind that is sharp, purposeful, and powerful. Because once your mind becomes an asset, everything else follows. Wealth follows. Confidence follows. Opportunities follow. And most importantly, fulfillment follows. Because nothing feels better than knowing. I built this. I earned this. I studied what mattered. And I applied it like my future depended on it because it did. That, my friend, is what separates noise from legacy. And now the choice is yours. Ladies and gentlemen, let me take you behind the curtain of every great achievement. Behind every fortune. Behind every invention, discovery, or breakthrough. Behind every product, company, career, or movement. You'll find one thing. Imagination. Before anything was built. Before anything was sold. Before anything changed the world. It was first imagined. You see, the mind is not just a recording device. It's a workshop. It's where raw ideas are shaped into form, where thought becomes blueprint and blueprint becomes reality. And the tool we use inside that mental workshop is imagination. Now, I must say imagination is not a child's toy. It's not something we outgrow. It's not reserved for poets or painters or musicians. It is the driving force behind every form of progress, in business, in science, in wealth creation, and in personal success. There are two types of imagination. Synthetic and creative. Let me explain. Synthetic imagination is what you use when you rearrange old ideas, concepts, or facts into new combinations. It doesn't create, it restructures. It's what most entrepreneurs use when they take an existing product, add a new feature, find a new market, or solve an old problem in a new way. It's the imagination of business, of invention, of innovation. Then there's creative imagination. That's the deep current, the intuitive flash, the sudden, unexplainable idea that comes seemingly from nowhere. It's what gave birth to Edison's light, Ford's assembly line, and every revolutionary idea you can name. Creative imagination is where your subconscious mind connects with the infinite intelligence of the universe. It speaks in hunches, insights, feelings, visions. But here's the truth. Both forms of imagination are useless if you do not use them. Imagination is like a muscle, it strengthens with use and weakens with neglect. And most people? They abandon it after childhood. They stop creating. They stop asking, what if? They get trapped in facts, in routine, in repetition, and wonder why their lives never expand. But the ones who rise, the ones who build, the ones who change the world, They never stop imagining. They use imagination as a tool not for escape, but for design. They deliberately shape their thoughts into visions. And then they move toward those visions with plan and purpose. So let me ask you now. Are you using your imagination to move forward? Or have you let it collect dust while your potential sits untapped? Because everything you want, the business, the impact, the freedom, it already exists in the world of possibility. Your job is to imagine it clearly enough to bring it into form. Don't say, I'm not creative. You are. But creativity comes from use, from discipline, from daring to think bigger than your current circumstances. Today, we begin sharpening that ability. We'll train your imagination to serve your purpose, not distract you from it. We'll learn how to direct it with intent and use it to solve, build, and win. Because the moment you take your imagination seriously, you step into a new level of power. And from this point on, you are not just a thinker. You are a creator. Let's get to the point. Every dollar you will ever earn starts in your imagination. Not in your job. Not in your resume. Not in your education. It begins with an idea. The marketplace doesn't reward effort alone, it rewards value. And value begins when a man sees something others don't, imagines how to improve it, and takes steps to bring that vision to life. That's the process of wealth. Look at every fortune ever built. Behind it, you'll find a man or woman who dared to use their imagination differently. They saw a need. They saw an opportunity. They pictured something better, clearer, simpler, faster. And they moved on that picture. Imagination is the pipeline between your desire and its realization. Desire gives you the fuel. Imagination gives it form. Action gives it legs. But without imagination, your desire is just a feeling. It has no shape, no direction, no pull. That's why I tell you, if you're serious about success, you must learn to think in pictures. You must ask yourself, what does my goal actually look like? What kind of product, service, business, or message would bring it to life? How can I creatively deliver value to others in a way they've never experienced before? This isn't fantasy. This is the mental beginning of real wealth. You don't need to invent something the world has never seen. You need to see what others don't notice or see it from a better angle. That's synthetic imagination. It might be taking a product that already exists and presenting it in a new way. It might be combining two ideas that never belonged together before. It might be solving a small problem that no one thought was worth solving until you did. That's how businesses are born. That's how fortunes are created. That's how ideas move from abstract to income. Now, here's the mistake most people make. They wait for imagination to show up. They sit, hoping for some creative spark. But the truth is, you don't wait for imagination. You train it. You train it by asking better questions, exposing yourself to new information, giving yourself quiet space to think, writing ideas down, testing small versions of your thoughts in the real world. And yes, most of your first ideas will be weak. That's okay. That's part of the process. The more you use your imagination with intent, the more precise and useful it becomes. Eventually, you'll find the one idea that clicks, the one solution the market is hungry for, the one insight that ties your desire directly to value creation. And when you do, you'll look back and realize it wasn't magic. It wasn't chance. It was the result of deliberate, focused imagination applied to a clear goal. So don't dismiss your ideas. Write them, shape them, test them. Let your imagination work. Like a craftsman, not a dreamer. Because that's the difference between fantasy and fortune. Let's be honest. Most people don't lack imagination, they've just stopped feeding it. You cannot expect your mind to produce great ideas if you've filled it with noise, fear, and distraction. You cannot demand creativity while surrounding yourself with boredom and routine. You cannot summon inspiration in a mental environment built for survival, not expansion. Imagination, like fire, needs fuel, needs air, it needs ignition, and it needs space to grow. So here's the question. What are you feeding your imagination? Are you surrounding yourself with challenge, beauty, and vision? Are you exposing yourself to new ideas, great thinkers, bold strategies? Or are you recycling the same conversations, the same worries, the same limits? Because your mind becomes what you feed it, and your imagination reflects your inner diet. If you want imagination to work for you, you must nurture it like a precious tool. Here's how. 1. Expose yourself to the unfamiliar. Step out of your echo chamber. Talk to people outside your field. Read biographies of unusual lives. Study other industries. Get uncomfortable. New combinations come from new ingredients. 2. Study great thinkers. Imagination grows when you learn from those who used it well. Read Edison, Ford, Carnegie, Da Vinci. Study how they turned thoughts into results. Look not just at what they built, but how they thought. Their patterns will become your seeds. 3. Capture every idea. Carry a notebook. Write things down. Even if they seem silly, messy, or half-baked. Imagination often whispers. If you don't catch it, it passes. Train your brain to respect its own thoughts. 4. Create time to think. Don't just fill your schedule. Guard blank space. A walk, a quiet room, an early morning. No phone, no noise, just you and your mind. Most people never pause long enough to hear their best ideas. 5. Ask bigger questions. Instead of asking, how can I get by? Ask, how can I multiply value? How could this be done better, faster, simpler? How would I solve this if I couldn't fail? Your imagination responds to the quality of your questions. If you treat imagination as a luxury, you will always run short. If you treat it as a tool, you will sharpen it daily. Now hear me. The great minds of the world were not born with bigger brains. They simply used theirs differently. They practiced. They stretched. They saw their imagination as a discipline, not a daydream. And that's what I want for you. Don't just wait for ideas. Make your life idea-rich. Build the habits, the environment, the thinking rituals that let imagination flow. And when it does, act on it. Refine it. Shape it until it serves your definite purpose. Because imagination, when trained and fed, becomes your greatest competitive edge. Let's talk now about something that most people never do. They dream, yes. They want more, yes. But they never take the time to translate that dream into something tangible. Something you can see, feel, organize, pursue. They never build the bridge between wanting and doing. That bridge, my friend, is imagination. It is the tool that transforms desire into direction. It is the method by which you take a vague longing and shape it into a specific result. You want more money. That's desire. But what form will it take? A business? Product? A system? You want to change your life. That's desire. But how? Through what path, what skill, what offering? Imagination gives shape to the abstract. It is where you design your strategy before the first step is taken. It's where you test possibilities in your mind before investing energy in the world. And let me tell you something. Every person who achieves anything of substance starts with an imagined outcome. Not a wish, not a hope, but a vision detailed enough to be planned and executed. If you cannot see it in your mind, you will not build it in your life. When I speak to people who feel stuck, they often tell me, I don't know what to do. But when I ask what they want, they can't describe it. No picture, no structure, just emotion and noise. That's why imagination must be trained. You must learn to take what you feel and give it form. So how do we do that? First, you get specific. If your desire is to be wealthy, ask how much, by when, through what. If your dream is freedom, define it. How does it look in daily life? If you want to create something, visualize who it helps, what it does, why it matters. Your mind must see the shape of what you're building. Even if the details aren't perfect yet, you must start forming the image. Second, turn that image into steps. What would have to happen to make that vision real? What resources are needed? What knowledge? What people? What tools? You're not guessing here. You're imagining with intent. Now, you may be thinking, but what if I'm wrong? Then you adjust. That's the beauty of imagination. You can redesign before you invest energy. You can reshape your approach as clarity grows. But what you cannot afford to do is sit in fog. You cannot build what you cannot describe. Most people wait for life to tell them what to do. But life responds to those who dare to imagine first. You must take your desire and pass it through the filter of imagination, so that it comes out the other side as something actionable, something real. And don't mistake this for fantasy. This is mental architecture. This is where your inner world lays the foundation for outer success. The most powerful plans you will ever create begin in stillness, in silence, in thought, in deliberate, focused imagination. So I challenge you today. Take one goal. Picture it clearly. Map it mentally. And begin the process of turning that picture into a plan. Because once you can see it, once you can describe it, once you can feel it before it happens, you've already begun to create it. And that, my friend, is where real progress starts. Turning obstacles into opportunity through imagination. Now let's talk about what stops most people. Not lack of talent, not lack of resources, not lack of time. The real enemy of progress is the inability to solve problems creatively. Because problems will come. They are not optional. They are part of the path. But how you respond to them, that's your choice. And that's where imagination becomes your greatest weapon. You see, most people hit a wall and stop. They say, this didn't work, and give up. They say, I don't know what to do, and go back to comfort. But the person who succeeds, the one who keeps moving, is the one who steps back, takes a deep breath, and says, what's another way? That one question, asked with focus and intent, unlocks more power than any degree or credential. Imagination gives you options. It helps you look at what appears to be a failure and say, how else can I approach this? It allows you to turn a dead end into a detour. It helps you turn a loss into a lesson, a barrier into a blueprint. Some of the greatest businesses in history were born from solving a problem nobody else could see differently. Some of the most powerful strategies emerged from someone saying, what if we try this instead? That's imagination in motion. It doesn't just help you dream. It helps you adapt. And in this fast-moving world, your ability to adapt creatively is more valuable than almost anything else. When others freeze, you think. When others complain, you design. When others break down, you build a new approach. That's not talent. That's trained imagination. Now let's be practical. Every time you face an obstacle, do this. Step 1. Pause. Step back from emotion. Step 2. Ask yourself, what else could this mean? What else could I try? Step 3. Picture multiple alternatives. Not just one. Let your mind stretch. Step 4. Choose one and test it quickly without fear of failure. Even if it doesn't work, you're learning. Even if it fails, you're gathering data. And eventually, one of those attempts becomes the breakthrough. But only if you keep your mind open. Rigid thinking kills results. Creative thinking resurrects momentum. Imagination is not soft. It is not optional. It is what keeps you moving when logic says stop. It is the mental tool that turns problems into puzzles. And puzzles into strategies. So the next time you feel stuck, don't say, I'm blocked. Say, it's time to imagine again. Let your mind ask better questions. Let your thoughts run down new paths. Let your inner architect get to work. Because the obstacle in front of you is not your enemy. It's your invitation to grow through innovation. And the more you practice this, the more automatic it becomes. Until one day, people will look at you and say, nothing seems to stop that person. But the truth will be simple. You just trained your imagination to serve you. Not only in times of inspiration, but especially in times of challenge. And that's what separates the wishful from the unstoppable. Imagination builds or destroys, you choose the direction. By now you understand that imagination is powerful. But here's what most people miss. That same power you can use to build a better life can just as easily be used to destroy it. Because imagination is neutral. It works in whatever direction you send it. And if you send it toward fear, limitation, or doubt, then it will work just as hard to make those things real. Let me give it to you straight. Every person alive uses their imagination every day. The only difference is whether they're using it on purpose or letting it run wild against them. You've seen it. The person who always imagines the worst. They picture failure before they even begin. They see rejection in every interaction. They visualize problems, disaster, embarrassment. And what happens? They hesitate. They shrink. They quit. Not because the world stopped them, but because they rehearsed defeat in their mind long before it arrived. That too is imagination, but turned in the wrong direction. If you continually imagine the worst, don't be surprised when you live in anxiety, doubt, and stagnation. So the question is not, do you have imagination? The question is, who is in control of it? Is it working for your goal or against your future? You must become the master of your inner imagery, because what you allow to take root in your imagination will eventually shape your beliefs, your behavior, and your results. When fear creeps in, imagination amplifies it. When doubt whispers, imagination adds color and detail. When someone says you can't, imagination builds the failure before you even try. But here's the good news. You can reverse it. You can take that same creative force and point it towards strength, progress, and purpose. You can picture yourself following through. You can imagine the people you'll help. You can see the goal achieved, the reward earned, the path completed. And the more vividly you imagine the right things, the faster your subconscious begins to believe them and act accordingly. Because your mind doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's repeatedly imagined with emotion and detail. That's why athletes rehearse victories in their heads. That's why great speakers visualize their delivery before stepping on stage. That's why creators see the finished product long before the first step is taken. They are using imagination as a tool, consciously, deliberately, and repeatedly. And so can you. But it begins with awareness. You must become aware of what kind of mental pictures you've been painting. Are they filled with courage or hesitation? Do they support your future or undermine it? Do they inspire action or feed excuses? Once you see the pattern, you can change the direction. Train your imagination. Challenge it. Direct it. Make it your ally, not your saboteur. Because left alone, it will drift into fear. But with focus, it will drive you into purpose. And that choice, that direction, is yours to make every single day. When you have nothing, imagination becomes everything. Let me speak now to the person who says, "But I don't have the resources. I don't have the money. I don't have the support. I don't have the education." You may not have those things today, but if you have imagination used with purpose, you already have what you need to begin. Because when you have nothing, imagination becomes everything. It becomes your capital, your startup fund, your hidden advantage. Every great fortune began in the same place. In the unseen world of thought, belief, and creative problem solving. You don't need to wait for circumstances to improve. You don't need to wait for someone to hand you a solution. You need to imagine one, then start building it with whatever you have. Do not underestimate the mind that refuses to stay stuck. I have seen people start with no connections, no experience, no formal education, but with an idea so clear, so focused, so emotionally charged, that they pulled together what they needed through sheer persistence and imagination. One saw an opportunity where others saw nothing. Another solved a simple problem no one paid attention to. Another looked at a crowded market and found a tiny gap to serve better. They used imagination not just to dream big, but to think smart. You can do the same. If you don't have funding, imagine ways to test your idea small. If you don't have a team, imagine how to automate, simplify, or trade skills. If you don't know the path, imagine the end result and work backward. Imagination helps you move from "I can't" to "what if I tried this?" And every time you do that, you train your mind to think like a builder. People wait for the perfect plan, the right time, the guarantee. But those who win, they move with what they have and imagine the rest into place. They let their vision guide their action. They let creativity fill in the gaps. They believe in possibilities others ignore. And slowly, the invisible becomes visible. Now let me be clear. This isn't about blind optimism. This isn't about pretending everything is easy. This is about choosing to think beyond your limitations. It's about asking yourself one simple but powerful question. If I had no excuse, what would I try? And then letting your imagination do the rest. Think of it this way. Your current circumstances are not your ceiling. They are just your starting line. And imagination is the tool that moves the finish line closer. Not by magic, but by creativity, clarity, and action. So don't wait until the stars align. Don't wait until you have everything in place. Use what's already yours, your ability to imagine something better. And let the vision fuel the steps you take. Because when others say, "It's not possible," you'll be the one quietly building it anyway. That's what imagination makes possible. And that's how leaders, creators, and builders are made. Imagine your way into belief. Let's talk about belief. Not surface-level confidence. Not temporary motivation. I mean deep, unshakable belief in yourself and your ability to reach your goal. The kind of belief that holds when no one's clapping. When things don't go as planned. When results are slow. When doubt creeps in and whispers, "You're not enough." How do you build belief like that? The answer is simple but rarely practiced. You imagine it over and over until it becomes real. You don't wait for belief to show up. You create it in your mind first. You see yourself succeeding before you do. You picture the actions, the effort, the follow-through. You see yourself overcoming the struggle. You rehearse your future self until it becomes familiar. Because what is belief, really? It's a repeated thought wrapped in emotion embedded through experience. And if you haven't yet had the experience, then imagination becomes your best tool to create it in advance. This isn't fantasy. This is mental preparation. This is psychological training. Athletes do it before every game. Pilots do it before every flight. Performers do it before every stage. Why shouldn't you do it before every important step in your life? You want to believe you can build the business? Close your eyes. See yourself taking action. See the deal being made. See the client saying yes. See the result delivered with excellence. And don't just see it once. Repeat it until your subconscious accepts it as familiar. That's how belief is built. Not by accident. Not by hoping. But by repeated exposure to the image of who you want to become. Most people do the opposite. They rehearse doubt. They imagine failure. They see themselves quitting, stalling, embarrassing themselves. And over time, that becomes belief too. A belief that limits. That weakens. That convinces them to play small. But you can flip that script. You can use the same imagination that once built fear to now build confidence. It starts today. You choose the scene. You write the mental script. You perform it with emotion, clarity, and frequency. Soon, your body starts acting in alignment. Your decisions become bolder. Your tone changes. Your actions follow your vision. And that right there is the magic of belief created through imagination. It's not fake. It's foundational. Because before you can build anything real in the world, you must first build it in your mind. And when belief takes root there, no setback can shake it. Make imagination a daily practice. Let me ask you something directly. If imagination is the force behind all achievement, if it turns desire into plans, and if it fuels belief and unlocks opportunity, then why do most people use it only by accident? Why do they wait for rare flashes of inspiration, instead of building a system for creative thinking? The answer is simple. They were never taught to take imagination seriously. It was treated like a childhood thing, like something artists or dreamers use. But not serious people, not professionals, not builders. And yet every successful person I've studied has a system. A routine that keeps their imagination sharp, available, and productive. So today I challenge you to do the same. You must turn imagination into a habit. Not a hope. Not a once-in-a-while mental escape. A habit. Let me show you how. First, create space to think. Not scroll. Not react. Think. Even 10 minutes of quiet mental time each day, without distraction, can sharpen your creative mind more than hours of passive learning. Second, give your imagination a target. Don't just say, let's see what comes up. Ask questions like, what is one new way I could solve this? What's something I've never tried before? What if I started from scratch? How would I approach this? Specific prompts create specific breakthroughs. Third, visualize success in motion. Don't just see the finish line. See the steps. See yourself taking action, adjusting, improving. This isn't fantasy. This is mental rehearsal. It conditions your mind and body to move confidently. Fourth, write your ideas down. All of them. Good or bad. Big or small. Imagination whispers, and if you don't catch it, it's gone. A simple notebook, a voice memo, a digital folder, whatever works. The point is to treat your thoughts with respect. Fifth, review and act. Once a week, look over what your imagination gave you. Pick one thing. Test it. Try it. Put it into motion, even in a small way. This last step is where most people stop. They imagine, they even capture ideas. But they never act. But the ones who rise? They treat imagination like a strategy. They treat it as part of the work. They let it guide their next move, not replace it. Because an idea that sits in a notebook is still just a dream. But an idea you test, refine, and apply, that becomes real. And finally, protect your inputs. What you allow into your mind affects what your imagination has to work with. Surround yourself with possibility. With solution-oriented thinkers. With books, ideas, and people who stretch you. Because imagination cannot thrive in a mental environment filled with limitation. So let's be clear. You don't need more talent. You don't need more luck. You need a stronger daily relationship with your own imagination. Feed it. Train it. Use it. Every day. And soon others will call you visionary. They'll ask how you always seem to find the right idea. How you keep moving forward. How you create what they never saw coming. And you'll know the truth. You just made imagination part of your routine. And let it serve your mission. Your future is built in the workshop of your mind. Let's bring this home. We've talked about what imagination is. We've talked about how it works. We've explored how it turns desire into action. How it creates belief. How it solves problems. And how it builds momentum where there once was none. But now the question is simple. Will you use it? Because here's the truth. Everything you want, every goal, every dream, every breakthrough, already exists in one place. Your imagination. It's the workshop where plans are formed. It's the bridge between wishing and doing. It's the internal space where you can create without permission. Test without fear. Build before the world believes. And you can access it anytime. Right now. Wherever you are. with whatever you have. No one can take it from you. No one can restrict it. No one can outwork you in the world of imagination except you. You see, most people spend their lives reacting. They respond to circumstances. They wait for the perfect moment. They ask for clarity from the outside world. But those who achieve, they create clarity from within. They imagine the result. They build the picture. They rehearse the future. And then they follow it step by step until it becomes real. You have that power. Not someday. Not if you're lucky. Now. But it begins with a decision. The decision to take imagination seriously. The decision to practice it daily. The decision to turn ideas into plans. Plans into steps. And steps into results. So what do you want? Not in theory. Not in fantasy. In reality. Define it. See it. Feel it. Then build it in your mind first. The stronger the image, the stronger the pull. The clearer the vision, the faster the action. The more you use your imagination, the more natural it becomes. Until one day, what once felt impossible feels inevitable. Not because it was easy, but because you trained your mind to see beyond your limits. And once you've seen what's possible, you won't settle for less. So here's what I want you to remember. Imagination is not escape. It's direction. It's not fantasy. It's design. It's not a luxury. It's a necessity. Treat it that way. Use it with purpose. Use it with faith. Use it to build the life that's calling to you from the inside out. Because your imagination already knows who you could be. It's waiting for you to act like it. And when you do, when you build what you first saw in the workshop of your mind, the world won't be able to look away.
Let's start with a truth most people avoid. Success doesn't happen by accident. No one drifts into greatness. No fortune is built on hope alone. If you want to create anything of value, anything lasting, it must be planned, organized, thought through, adjusted, and built on purpose. That's what separates the successful from the merely busy. You see, desire is where it begins, but planning is how it comes to life. A man can want riches. He can want freedom, impact, change, but unless he sits down and constructs a clear, practical, working plan, his desire will stay a wish. This is where so many people fall short. They wait for things to work out. They think passion will carry them through. But what they miss is this. You must take your desire and give it direction. Planning is how you tell the universe, I'm serious, I'm ready, I'm in motion. Let me be even more direct. You don't need a perfect plan. You don't need all the answers. But you do need a starting structure, a map to follow, even if it changes, because action without direction is just noise. Now, some people say, but Napoleon, I'm not a planner, I go with the flow. Let me tell you something. The flow doesn't care where you end up. If you want to control the outcome, you must control the input. And the input begins with a definite written plan. Think of every successful person you admire. Every one of them, whether they admit it or not, had a method, a structure, a process. They didn't get lucky, they got organized, and so must you. That's what this next phase of your journey requires. Not just dreaming, not just visualizing, but building on paper first, in action second. So I ask you right now, have you written down your plan? Not your goal, your plan. Can you describe your next 3 moves? Do you know what tools you need? What people you need? What steps must come first, second, third? If not, you're not behind. You're just unprepared. And there's a difference. You can correct that today. Start simple. Don't overthink it. Just begin with your end goal, then work backwards. Ask, what would have to happen to reach this? Then break that into parts, then into weeks, then into daily steps. And now you're not just someone with a dream. You're someone with direction. Because here's what I know. People don't fail because they lack talent. They fail because they lack a plan. Or they never follow the one they had. But you won't be that person. You're going to lead with clarity. You're going to act with purpose. You're going to plan like success depends on it because it does. And once you begin thinking this way, you step into a new kind of power. The kind that doesn't hope. The kind that builds. No plan succeeds in isolation. No matter how strong your desire, no matter how sharp your strategy, you will need people. And not just any people, the right ones. Every great achievement is built with the help of others. No empire was built alone. No business, no brand, no breakthrough ever stood on one man's effort. So as you build your plan, you must also build your team. Now, I'm not talking about hiring a crowd. I'm talking about selecting individuals who bring specific strengths, people who complement your weaknesses, people who believe in the mission as much as you do. You must be deliberate, intentional, because the wrong people, even if they mean well, will slow you down. They'll distract you. They'll inject doubt. They'll say it can't be done or not because they're right, but because they can't see what you see. And that's dangerous. So ask yourself, who do I need around me to make this plan real? Do I need someone who understands marketing, finance, technology? Do I need someone to help with execution or strategy or structure? List the roles, not the names. Start with the function, then look for the person. That's how you build with focus. And when you find the right people, treat them well. Share your vision. Be clear, be honest, but more than anything, be organized. People will follow clarity, they will commit to leadership, but they will walk away from chaos. So lead with a plan, not emotion. Lead with purpose, not pressure. Now here's something else you must understand. You don't need to be the smartest person in the room. You just need to be the one who brings the smartest people together. The leader is not the encyclopedia. The leader is the conductor. You gather knowledge, you assign responsibility, you create the rhythm, and if someone's not a fit, if they drain energy, if they resist progress, have the courage to release them. Because loyalty to the wrong person is disloyalty to your vision. As your plan grows, your team must grow with it. And as you face obstacles, it will be your team that keeps the engine moving. So build it carefully, build it early, and never forget that your plan is only as strong as the people helping you execute it. Build a plan, build a team, build momentum. That's how real progress happens. A plan without action is a fantasy. You can outline your strategy. You can sketch the steps. You can design the perfect blueprint. But until you take the first step, nothing real happens. Let me be clear, planning is critical. But it must lead to motion. And that motion must begin now, not someday. Someday is the hiding place of fear. Someday is where good ideas go to die. So once you have your plan, your next duty is to move. Even if it's not perfect, even if you're unsure, even if it scares you. Because action reveals what planning cannot. It shows you the flaws, the gaps, the strengths, the surprises. It brings feedback. It brings experience. It brings momentum. So many people delay action in search of certainty. They want the perfect map. They want guarantees. But success doesn't work that way. You don't wait for the path to be clear, you walk until it clears. The truth is, you will not have all the answers at the start. But you don't need them. You need just enough clarity to begin, and the courage to keep going. Now here's what you must understand. Your first plan is never your final plan. It will evolve, it will adapt, it will break, and you will rebuild it stronger. That's not failure. That's refinement. Planning is not a one-time event. It is a living process, a cycle of preparing, acting, learning, and adjusting. That's why I say don't fall in love with your plan. Fall in love with your goal. Your plan is a tool. Your goal is the mission. If something doesn't work, change the method, not the vision. If a step fails, ask why. Don't abandon the entire structure, adapt it. The most successful people I've studied were not the ones who got it right the first time. They were the ones who responded quickly when things went wrong. They moved fast. They stayed flexible. They learned. They adapted. They kept going. That's organized planning in its real form structure with flexibility. Direction with humility. Strategy with speed. Now let me address something else at timing. Too many people delay action because they say, it's not the right time. But let me ask you, when will it be? The market won't pause for you. The world won't clear a lane just for your dream. You must act in the middle of uncertainty. You must plan while the dust is still settling. You must move when others are still thinking. That's how leaders rise. They don't wait. They initiate. So once you've outlined your steps, your next move is simple. Take the first one. Make the call. Build the page. Test the product. Launch the message. Take the small risk that gets the wheels turning. Because the moment you act, everything changes. Your energy rises. Your confidence grows. Your imagination expands. And your plan begins to live. That is the difference between those who build and those who dream. So today, don't add another line to your notebook. Don't tweak your outline for the 10th time. Don't wait for the perfect signal. Act. And if you fall, you adjust. If you fail, you refine. If you doubt, you go anyway. Because once you build that habit of acting while imperfect, of executing while uncertain, you become unstoppable. And that is the heartbeat of organized planning in action. Let's talk about clarity. You cannot execute what you cannot explain. You cannot hit a target you haven't defined, and you cannot move forward on a vague idea. That's why organized planning demands one essential skill, the ability to turn dreams into details. Most people stop at the dream. They say things like, I want more money. I want to be free. I want to build something big. But what does that actually mean? How much money? By when? Through what method? What are you willing to give or learn or become to earn it? Without specific answers, the goal stays in the cloud. And cloudy goals never create clear results. You must make it measurable. You must make it visual. You must bring it down from the sky and give it structure on the ground. Let me show you how. Start with the final outcome. Describe it in writing, not in theory, but in practical terms. What does success look like for you? What does it allow you to do, to become, to create? Then work backward. Ask, what must happen just before that result becomes real? What comes before that? And before that, break it into milestones, into checkpoints, into bite-sized steps. If you say you want to earn $100,000 in the next year, then how much is that per month? Per week? What product or service will generate that? How many people must you reach? What must you sell? How will you attract attention? Build trust? Deliver value? That's how you take a dream and make it a blueprint. Now here's the trap most people avoid this process, because it forces them to be honest. It forces them to confront gaps. It requires thinking beyond the excitement of the goal. But the truth is, this level of clarity is freedom, because once you can define the step, you stop guessing and start executing. You stop reacting and start leading. You also stop depending on motivation, because now you've got a system. Motivation fades. Systems don't. So let me challenge you. Pick your goal. And right now, yes, right now, write down the next 5 actions required to move closer to it. Not dreams, not philosophies, actions. Then ask, do I know how to do each one? If not, where will I learn it? Do I have the time scheduled, the tools ready? This is planning. This is leadership. This is the difference between being interested and being committed. And one more thing. Don't confuse movement with progress. Just because you're busy doesn't mean you're moving forward. You must check your plan regularly. Look at your results. Measure, adjust, cut what doesn't work. Double down on what does. Organized planning is not about rigidity. It's about clarity with flexibility. You are not locking yourself into a box. You are building a framework that helps you win with less waste, less confusion, and less delay. So don't fear structure. Use it. Let it give shape to your energy. Let it guide your next move. Let it remove the friction that kills momentum. Because when you can turn your vision into steps and your steps into action, you don't just think like a success. You operate like one. Let's talk about failure. Not the dramatic kind. Not the public collapse. I'm talking about the kind that shows up quiet. When your plan doesn't work the way you thought it would, you follow the steps. You tried the strategy. You executed the idea. And the result wasn't what you expected. So now what? This is the moment where most people give up. They take the failure as a sign to stop. They tell themselves, maybe this wasn't meant to be. They retreat. They go back to safety. But let me tell you something. Failure is never the end unless you decide it is. Failure is not a signal to quit. It's a signal to adjust, to revise, to rethink, to improve. Every great plan will meet resistance. Every goal worth pursuing will hit walls. That's not a reason to fold. That's your opportunity to grow. You must train yourself to expect this. Expect the plan to break. Expect the market to respond differently. Expect yourself to miss the mark on your first few attempts. That's not negative thinking. That's strategic realism. You're not trying to be perfect. You're trying to be persistent. When something doesn't work, ask why. Don't ask, why me? Ask, what's the feedback here? What can I learn? What needs to change? Failure is feedback, nothing more, nothing less. In fact, it's the most honest feedback you'll ever get. It tells you what your audience actually wants. It tells you what systems are weak. It shows you where your thinking needs to expand. And that feedback, it's priceless if you use it. But here's the key. You must remain committed to the outcome, even if you must change the method. Your goal stays firm. Your plan can flex. There is no shame in rewriting a strategy. There is no weakness in course correction. There is only strength in the one who refuses to stop. Think of a pilot in flight. He doesn't fly in a straight line from one city to another. The plane is constantly adjusting weather, altitude, wind, but the destination never changes. You must be the same. So if you've tried something and it didn't work, good. You're in motion. You're learning. You're in the real game now. You're not on the sideline. You're not dreaming on the couch. You're out there building. That's what matters. And the more you do this, the more you train your mind to expect challenge without panic, the faster your adjustments become. You stop overthinking. You stop internalizing. You stop doubting every move. You say, this didn't work. What's next? You say, let's adapt and go again. And you will go again, and again, and again, until the plan becomes so sharp, so tested, so resilient, that nothing can stop it. That's how leaders think. That's how builders operate. And that's how organized planning turns failure into fuel. Let's talk about execution. Not the moment you start. Not the excitement of a new idea. I'm talking about the discipline to follow through, to show up after the excitement fades, to keep building even when no one's watching. This is where most plans die. Not because they weren't good. Not because the goal wasn't worthy, but because the person behind the plan never built the habits to sustain it. So hear this clearly. A plan without consistent execution is just organized hope. What turns a plan into progress is repetition, not random bursts of effort, not waiting for inspiration. Daily, disciplined action. That's where results live. If you only move when it feels good, you'll lose momentum. If you only act when you're inspired, you will never be consistent. But if you build structure into your day, if you treat your dream like a job, you remove the guesswork and start gaining control. You need a system. That means blocking time, assigning tasks, tracking your progress, reviewing what worked, what didn't, and what's next. This isn't glamorous. This isn't exciting. But it's how goals become real, because emotion fades, enthusiasm fades. But structure gives you something solid to return to, especially when the feelings are gone. Let me give you something practical. Once you've created your plan, you must assign it to time. Not just a list of things to do, a calendar, a schedule, a rhythm. Every successful person I've studied has a rhythm. They don't wing it. They don't guess. They build routines that move their plan forward automatically. You don't rise to the level of your goal. You fall to the level of your system. And your system must be designed to do one thing, move you forward, even on hard days. Now let's be honest. Some days you won't feel like it. Some days the results will be invisible. You'll question if it's working. You'll want to change everything or stop altogether. But this is the moment that defines your future. Will you keep your word to yourself? Will you follow the plan you wrote when you were clear, even when you feel cloudy? That's discipline. And discipline is the bridge between intention and success. Most people quit when the excitement fades. But the ones who win, they move when it's boring. They act when it's hard. They work when no one's clapping. Because they're not building for applause. They're building for impact. So ask yourself, do you have a system for execution? Do you know what matters most each day? Are you protecting your time? Are you honoring your commitments? If not, your plan is just a wish. But if you're showing up, adjusting, moving forward, you're building momentum that compounds. And one day, the results will show. Not all at once, but suddenly, because you refuse to stop. That's the power of organized planning paired with disciplined execution. There's something powerful that happens when you follow a plan you've built with your own mind, your own hands, your own judgment. You begin to trust yourself, not because everything goes perfectly, but because you're no longer waiting for someone else to give you the green light. That's what real confidence is. Not arrogance, not noise, but quiet, certain yearn through clarity, decisions, and action. You see, most people walk through life reacting. They do what others expect. They follow the crowd. They wait for a sign, a mentor, a permission slip. But the person with a plan, a clear, written, structured plan, doesn't wait. They initiate. They move. They lead. And here's the truth. Confidence is not a feeling. It's a byproduct of ownership. When you take ownership of your direction, your results, your time, and your growth, confidence follows naturally. You start to believe in yourself because you have evidence. You're no longer guessing. You've done the thinking. You've done the work. You've made adjustments. You've kept going when it would have been easier to stop. And with every decision made, every challenge met, every obstacle navigated, you build something more important than money or status. You build faith in your ability to figure things out. Now let me say this. Confidence doesn't mean you never doubt. It means doubt doesn't control you. It means your plan gives you a path forward when emotion gets loud. Because you've already done the thinking. You've already mapped the way. You don't have to rely on inspiration. You rely on preparation. That's power. That's stability. And that's what makes you dangerous in the best way. Because while others hesitate, you execute. While others worry, you work. While others hope, you adjust and move forward. And this brings us to another point. Organized planning doesn't just create results. It creates responsibility. When you write a plan, when you commit to it, you eliminate excuses. You can't blame the world. You can't point fingers. Because now you've taken the wheel. And that scares some people. It's easier to say, well, let's see what happens. Oh. But those who wait for things to happen rarely lead anything worth following. The minute you take responsibility for the outcome, everything changes. Even if the plan needs adjusting, even if it fails at first, you're still in the seat. You're still in motion. You are still becoming the person who finishes what they start. So if you want confidence, don't wait for it. Build it. Earn it. Write your plan. Follow through. Learn from the feedback. You'll walk taller. Speak clearer. Think faster. Not because someone told you you're good, but because you proved it to yourself. And that, my friend, is the kind of belief that can't be bought. It can only be built one day, one plan, one step at a time. Let's talk about focus, because no matter how clear your plan is, no matter how motivated you are, no matter how much you want to win, you'll never reach the finish line if you're constantly chasing distraction. In today's world, everything is fighting for your attention. Notifications, messages, trends, noise, and if you don't protect your focus, your plan doesn't stand a chance. That's why organized planning is more than a map. It's a filter. It helps you decide what matters, what's urgent, what's just noise, dressed as opportunity. Without a plan, everything feels important. You try to do it all. You jump from one thing to the next. You confuse motion with progress. But when you have a structure, a set of priorities, a daily system, you begin to see what really moves the needle. Let me give it to you straight. Not everything deserves your time. Not every idea is worth chasing. Not every opportunity is meant for you. The people who achieve the most are not the ones doing the most. They are the ones doing the most important things consistently. That's the gift of planning. It doesn't just tell you what to do. It helps you say no to what doesn't align. And saying no, that's how you protect the integrity of your vision. Ask yourself this. Is the way you're spending your time aligned with the plan you created? Are your actions today connected to your goals for tomorrow? Or are you reacting, drifting, defaulting to what feels urgent? The biggest threat to your long-term success isn't failure, it's distraction. Distraction makes you busy but broke. It fills your calendar but empties your result. But focus compounds. Focus builds mastery. Focus multiplies effort. Focus brings clarity in a world built to confuse you. Now here's what planning does. It gives your focus a home. It turns random effort into targeted action. It helps you protect your most valuable resource, your time. So start treating time like money. Budget it, invest it, protect it. And just like with money, if you don't have a plan for your time, someone else will spend it for you. Every morning, look at your plan. Decide the one thing that matters most. Do it first. Then move to the second. Don't let distractions decide your day. Because the person who builds something meaningful isn't the one who tries to do everything. It's the one who chooses what matters and does it well. That's how you get ahead. That's how you build faster. That's how you stay in control. And most of all, that's how you finish what you start. With your focus aligned to your plan and your plan aligned to your purpose. Let's talk about environment. Because no plan, no matter how brilliant, can survive in the wrong environment. I'm not just talking about your physical surroundings. I'm talking about the people you allow into your space. The voices you listen to, the energy you absorb, the standards you tolerate. Your plan is fragile in its early stages. It needs protection. It needs belief. It needs the right atmosphere to grow. That's why I say, choose your environment as carefully as you choose your goals. Because every person around you is either pushing your plan forward or pulling it off track. Some people drain your energy. They don't believe in vision. They can't imagine more than what they've already seen. They'll smile at you in public, but whisper doubts behind your back, and they'll call it realism. But here's what you must understand. Other people's limitations don't belong in your plan. Just because they couldn't do it doesn't mean you can't. Just because they gave up doesn't mean you should. You need people around you who respect the process. People who value growth. People who don't flinch when things get hard. People who will challenge you, not coddle you. Correct you, not flatter you. Support you, not suffocate your momentum. That's how winning environments are built. So ask yourself, who do I talk to every day? What are they talking about? Do their words build belief or drain it? Do their actions reflect growth or stagnation? You don't need a crowd. You need a core. Just a few people who bring energy, not excuses. And while we're here, let's talk about self-environment. What are you feeding your own mind? Are you reading things that sharpen your thinking? Are you consuming content that strengthens your resolve? Or are you filling your mind with distraction, comparison, doubt? You can't build a clear plan inside a noisy head. So create space. Protect your morning. Guard your mental diet. Fill your mind with stories of resilience, strategy, and success. Let those voices shape your standard. Now, does this mean cut everyone out? No. But it does mean set boundaries. It means protecting your plan like it's a seed. And your environment is the soil. Because without the right soil, even the best seed won't grow. Your idea matters. Your mission matters. And if you're serious about seeing it through, you must be serious about the space you build around it. Remember this, the environment you tolerate will always determine the results you experience. Choose wisely. Now that we've walked through every part of organized planning, it's time to bring it all together. You've learned that desire is the starting point. But desire alone isn't enough. It must be followed by a practical, adaptable, and structured plan of action. A plan you control. A plan you refine. A plan you execute. That's how dreams become results. Let me remind you, success is not reserved for the lucky or the gifted. It is earned by those who take responsibility for where they are, where they want to go, and what steps must be taken to get there. And every one of those steps starts with a plan. Now, I'm not talking about a rigid script. I'm talking about a living document, a working strategy, one that breathes, grows, and evolves with you. That's the difference between wishful thinking and organized thinking. Wishful thinking waits, organized thinking acts. So let me give you a framework you can carry with you. First, define your goal with absolute clarity. Not just what you want, but when, how, and why. Then, break that goal into specific milestones. Create checkpoints that let you measure progress. Next, reverse engineer each milestone into actionable steps. What must happen first? What resources are required? What skills must be developed? Assign each step to a timeline. Put it on paper. Make it visible. Make it real. Then create a schedule. Commit to time. Because if it's not scheduled, it's optional. And optional tasks don't build consistent results. Next, build your support system. Choose people who elevate your thinking. Collaborate with those who can execute what you can. Protect your environment. Guard your focus. And when things break, and they will, don't panic. Revise. Refine. Reset the plan, not the goal. Review weekly. Adjust monthly. Measure results, not effort. Track what's moving the needle and do more of that. That's how you stay sharp. That's how you stay on it. That's how you stay in motion. Because success is not something you chase once. It's something you build through systems, routines, and habits. It's not about speed. It's about direction. And your plan gives you that direction every day. Now let's address the most common lie people believe. They say, I'm not ready. But readiness is a myth. No one ever feels ready to begin. You become ready by starting, by taking action, by moving forward before you're fully confident. Confidence comes after commitment, never before. So don't wait. Don't hesitate. Don't keep rewriting the same plan hoping for perfect. You're not after perfect. You're after progress. And progress comes from action, not theory. If the first version of your plan fails, make version 2. If version 2 needs work, create version 3. Keep going. Keep refining. Keep learning. Because organized planning is not a one-time strategy, it's a lifetime discipline. The world doesn't reward vague intention. It rewards intelligent execution, and execution begins with planning. So here's your challenge. Write the plan. Follow the plan. Adjust the plan. Finish the plan. Because once you learn to master that process, there's no limit to what you can build, what you can lead, what you can become. You don't need permission. You don't need guarantees. You need structure. You need movement. And you need belief in your own ability to figure it out. And when that belief is matched with a solid plan, you become unstoppable. Now go build it.